brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and I'm going to be your host today, and we're going to be taking your calls, but we have a lot of breaking news. Now, today is Monday, March 31st, 2014. If that date sounds familiar, it's probably because that's the Obamacare deadline. Remember, that was the deadline that was not going to move? They were really serious about it this time. Actually, it's kind of turning out to be kind of like Groundhog Day, isn't it? Well, there's a lot of news breaking about Obamacare, and we've also got signs that the surveillance state is losing the info war. Yeah, we've got people bailing that ship like rats on a sinking ship. And Bilderberg has been announced. We're going to tell you where that's going to be. And it's not just Bilderberg where people go to get their politicians instructed. We also have some people who, over the weekend, went to Vegas, some Republican contenders who were trying to get some money from a very powerful lobbying group. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the history of that lobbying group. And we're going to talk about some of the amazing things that were said there. So as the elections are starting up, we're seeing the corruption starting up. And we have also some breaking news from the fellow who came up with the Gaia theory. Now, you may or may not be aware of what the Gaia theory is. It's essentially the idea, it was taken from a Greek goddess that represented the earth. It's the idea that the earth is a living organism. And we, essentially as humans, are some kind of a virus. And we need to be controlled or exterminated. And the person who came up with that Gaia theory, and one of the big proponents of global warming, has backtracked on both of those things, Lovelock, and we're going to be talking about an article about that. Very interesting, and it really ties in with the Noah movie that came out this last weekend. We've also got a South Carolina House of Representatives. Trey Gowdy is threatening to hold the IRS commissioner in contempt because they won't turn over emails. We've got secessionists in Europe that are turning out by the thousands. And we have a big riot that took place in Albuquerque, New Mexico yesterday. You may remember Alex showed the video of a homeless man who was shot in Albuquerque. A very, very disturbing video. A lot of people were disturbed by that. And they had riots this weekend. Actually, there were several hundred people that turned up. They demonstrated for over 10 hours, and it eventually got violent there. So we're going to show some footage of that. We're going to talk about what happened, and we're going to talk about what's going on behind the scenes at the Albuquerque Police Department, some of the things that you may or may not know about them. It's kind of a poster child for the shoot first, ask questions later mentality that's being fostered by the federal government in our local police departments. And so we're going to talk about that. I want to take some of your calls, see what you think is the reasonable thing to do to try to get control of our police departments. What do we do to stop this? The Albuquerque Police Department has a murder rate that's higher. They've killed more people than New York City, and they got a murder rate that's 4 times the national average. And, of course, they've been paying out tens of millions of dollars in lawsuits. So what do we do as a community? How do we get control of the police when they're out of control, when they never are held accountable for what they do, no matter how egregious it is, when they can murder people on videotape and get away with it? Is it a solution to compensate the victims at the expense of the taxpayers, or is there maybe a better solution? I've got some ideas. I want to hear your ideas. We're going to be taking your calls at 800-259-9231. But I want to know what you think about what we can do to pull back these police that are not being held accountable. They've got unions that support them. They got police chiefs who never see that they do anything wrong. How do we stop this? Or, like the liberals, do we just give them a monopoly on force? Barack Obama was in Belgium, and he's talking about the UN Arms Trade Treaty. We're going to have more news about that as well. A lot of breaking news and your calls coming up right after the break, so stay tuned.
Introducing Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gates, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filter today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139. The facts are in. The studies are legion. Sodium fluoride and other toxic members of the fluoride family are devastating the health and cognitive ability of the American people. So why are the social engineers adding it to the water? Simple. Dumb down the host population that the parasitic technocracy is feeding on. We may not have been able to get fluoride out of the water supply yet, but we can help to get it out of our bodies. I am extremely excited to announce the exclusive InfoWars Life Fluoride Shield formulation, fusing 6 of the best documented ingredients from around the world to help the body remove not just toxic fluoride residues from the body, but a whole host of toxic substances. Let's take a stand against the globalists by blocking their poisons with Fluoride Shield. I use Fluoride Shield every day. Secure your Fluoride Shield and other pioneering formulations at InfoWarsLife.com today. Let's start cleansing our bodies now and support the InfoWar at the same time. That's InfoWarsLife.com. My friends, Alex Jones here to tell you about some of the most important information concerning you and your family's health. Radiation levels have more than doubled in the last 60 years in the Northern Hemisphere from all of the nuclear testing and radiological accidents. Radioactive contamination is now in most of the food supply. There's only 2 ways to avoid this. Move south of the equator or properly protect your thyroid with Nascent Iodine. Looking to protect my family, I've done deep research. Nascent Iodine is the purest, cleanest, absolute best form of iodine to protect yourself and your family. It's made right here in the USA, completely non-GMO. I searched out the best quality and now have developed a double-strength form of Nascent Iodine, exclusively available at InfoWarsLife.com. Nascent Iodine is on record as one of the only safe ways to detox from fluoride poisoning. Survival Shield Nascent Iodine. Secure your super high-quality Nascent Iodine today at InfoWarsLife.com. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
Welcome to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. I'll be your host today, taking your calls and going over news. Now, today is Monday, March 31st, 2014. That was the deadline for Obamacare, but like Groundhog Day, it seems to be repeating the same problems we've seen over and over again. We've got the website going down for 6 hours on the deadline morning, but of course they extended this deadline. We've seen that before too, haven't we? We've seen over 30 times that Obama has unilaterally changed Obamacare. Evidently, it's kind of like every time it starts to roll around with another deadline, it's kind of like he sees the shadow. Instead of a groundhog, he sees a shadow of voter disapproval, and he extends it, just like the groundhog lets us know if we're going to have some more winter or not. That's the same sort of thing that's going on with Obama. And the New York Times points out that there's repercussions and reprieves at the health insurance enrollment deadline. Yeah, we got a lot of reprieves and repercussions. The power to tax is the power to destroy. And when the Supreme Court said that it was a tax, and that's another interesting story, where you see, I think it's the only time that the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court has written both the assenting decision and the dissenting decision. He wrote both of them because he changed his mind at the last minute. Remember, everybody was saying that it was going to lose. It was a 5-4, and it was going to be struck down as an illegal mandate. And at the very last minute, Chief Justice Roberts, who had written the opinion striking it down, changed his mind. Interesting. You know, this is before we learned about all the NSA spying, and a lot of us believe that they had something on him. I still believe that's the case. I mean, we've seen that with Petraeus and others. I still believe that they blackmailed him to write both sides of that opinion. But they call it a tax, and a tax is a power to destroy. And so when it gets to the point where Obama's friends are going to be affected by it, he gives them a reprieve. If it's something that concerns people and he sees the election coming up, he gives them a reprieve as well, because he doesn't want the people who don't really understand how this is going to destroy them. He wants a reprieve for that until after the election, because it's going to be very damaging for them anyway. Now, one of the things in this article from the New York Times I thought was kind of interesting, they had some FAQs, frequently asked questions, and one of them is, what changes or delays might be expected in the coming years? It says the experience of the last 4 years strongly suggests that there will be more surprises. Yeah, there definitely will. And another story here from, this is CBS. It says, on the eve of Obamacare deadline, the law remains a work in progress. Actually, you know, it's not a law. It's a series now of executive orders where Obama can just come in and change it however he wishes. But when a senator was asked about this on the Fox News program, this is Senator Angus King, an independent senator from Maine, who caucuses with the Democrats. He said, when Chris Wallace asked him about Obamacare, he said, there is no such thing as Obamacare. There you go. Doesn't exist. So we passed it. We're finding out what's in it, but actually, according to him, it doesn't exist. And I guess in one sense, it really doesn't exist because there is no care being provided for anybody. This is nothing other than an insurance mandate. It is not health care. Health insurance is not the same as health care. Just the same as a school, a government school, any school, is not the same as education. We need to understand there's a difference between the way we do these things, and sometimes they're counterproductive to the goals that we want. If we want health care, maybe the way to do it is not have the insurance companies write something that transfers wealth from Americans to the 1%, to the healthcare industry. They're the ones who wrote this. Now, there's another article here from CBS, and it says that charges are likely to be dropped against volunteers who are signing people up for Obamacare. That's right. Chicago police detained a couple of men who were going door to door scamming elderly residents. It turns out it wasn't actually a scam. It was Obamacare they were selling. Well, actually, it was a scam. But they're going to let them go. He said, I would have never thought that informing people about Obamacare would get me in handcuffs. I thought I was doing something positive for the community. And what they did was they charged them with soliciting an unlawful business. I think that's the best way to describe Obamacare I've ever seen, an unlawful business. I think these Obamacare voters are soliciting an unlawful business. I think the Chicago police got it exactly right. That's right. These are a couple of guys who are community organizers. And then we have this breaking news about Obamacare in California. And this is on the Drudge Report. California Obamacare sends out voter registration cards that are already pre-marked Democrat. See, it's simply about politics. It's not about health care. It's about controlling you, making you think you're going to get something at somebody else's expense. That's what it's always been about. That's why people sign up for it. But look at this story coming out of California. Play this report.
Well, the couple who received this letter and voter registration card from Covered California has lived in La Mesa for years, and they've always been registered to vote Republican. Tonight, they're perplexed as to how this voter registration card, pre-marked Democrat, ended up in their mailbox. As you can see plain as day, the box next to the words Democratic Party is pinned with a black X on this voter registration card. It was sent to a La Mesa couple who did not want their identity revealed. Sent from their health care provider, Covered California, the state-run agency that implements President Obama's Affordable Care Act.
I mean, I'm an old guy, and I never would have noticed it, except I have an accountant that notices every dot and dash on a piece of paper as a wife.
Covered California began mailing out voter sign-up cards to nearly 4 million enrollees last week after being threatened with a lawsuit by voting rights groups. But that doesn't explain this.
It's a waste of money because there's an awful lot of people who are going to get this that are already registered and they don't need to. But it's, I can see that, but I can't see putting an X on the form before it's before it's given to me in a little bitty box that nobody's really going to notice.
We shared what was sent with Covered California. Company spokeswoman Ann Gonzalez stated, "We are mailing voter registration material. However, the application forms come directly from the Secretary of State's office with no fields pre-marked. The individual should contact the Secretary of State, which takes these violations of election law extremely seriously, and they will investigate using the unique serial number." And the couple says they did reach out to the Secretary of State's office and couldn't get a hold of anyone. Also reached out to the San Diego Registrar of Voters, which told them to contact Covered California. Preston Phillips, 10.
Yeah, who would have thought? Who would have thought that this would have been used for political purposes? It's just so surprising, isn't it? Actually, that's been the purpose all along. It's been to benefit the Democrat Party, demagoguing, trying to profit on the idea that you're going to get something at the expense of your neighbor. At the same time, they can reward their corporate backers. You know, Obama spent over $1 billion to get elected this last time. Do you think he had some people that he needed to pay off? When you look at the explosion in what we're spending on just the presidential race, it's very evident that there is graft and corruption. You know, as I think, I forget who it was that said it, but an election is an advanced auction of stolen goods. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Obamacare. And people wonder why they're getting their hours cut, wonder why they're not getting pay raises, wonder why they're getting put on part-time basis, even a small part-time basis, because they've redefined work down from full-time as being 40 hours to 30 hours. So you've got these poor people that are especially down at the bottom of the scale. In order to get an insurance coverage that probably doesn't address their needs, a Cadillac policy that is going to require people like single males to get maternity coverage, that's the sort of thing that is costing people so much money in Obamacare. That's what we're talking about when we say that this is a massive transfer of wealth from the American public to the insurance companies, forcing us to get insurance that we don't need, paying much higher prices than we need. And they're wondering, many people are wondering why they're not getting these jobs, these raises, why there are layoffs in the businesses. They don't understand how this comes back around. Now, we've also seen some good news in the last few days. We've seen that Trey Gowdy, and this is someone who is a congressman, Republican congressman from South Carolina, is threatening to hold the IRS commissioner in contempt for withholding the Lerner emails regarding persecution of Tea Party organizations. IRS Commissioner John Koskinen is being threatened with contempt of court unless he produces the IRS official Lois Lerner's emails by the end of this week. And what he says is, all we want are emails to or from Lois Lerner. I'm not talking about private taxpayer information. And this is the key thing that he says right here. One of the reasons they don't answer our subpoenas is they don't fear any consequences. Yes, that's what's happening in government, whether you're talking about IRS agents or bureaucracies, or you're talking about out-of-control police departments in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They don't answer subpoenas. They fear no consequences. That's something I've never been able to explain to you, is why we don't stand up for our institutions anymore, said Trey Gowdy. Well, Congressman Gowdy, if you will stand up to the IRS, you will become an instant folk hero. What are you waiting for? Let's do it. Somebody pick up the mantle. I mean, it's just laying there on the floor for whoever is going to pick this up. This is a story from the Daily Caller. I certainly hope that this week he will do it, because I honestly don't think there is any chance that Lois Lerner is going to respond to that. Now, at the bottom of the scale, we see over and over again, it's not just in Albuquerque, but it's in other places. We have a police canine attacks an innocent 72-year-old man in his own yard. See, at the very bottom, starting from the police at your local government, they're totally unaccountable, all the way up to the IRS commissioner. This is a 72-year-old who was bitten on the arm as he worked in his yard. This is in Orlando, Florida. He said, when I got to the corner of the house, the dog leapt at me. And he wasn't so angry about the dog that bit him, causing his arm to bleed, but he said it was the officer's handling of the situation. He told me to go inside even though I was bleeding. He's supposed to have control of the dog. He's not supposed to just let that dog wonder where people are. But see, doesn't even get an apology. Doesn't get control of it. These are the police and the government from bottom to top. is just as out of control as a vicious dog. We're going to be back with some more information about what happened in Albuquerque, and we're going to be taking your calls. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I am a 47-year-old female and had a heart attack in 2005. This is Alice from New Jersey. I still get angina, even with 4 stents. I was taking nitro 2 or 3 times a week. The very first day after taking Heart and Body Extract, the chest pain was gone. Now I don't wear a nitro patch.
Learn the secrets of an effective, natural, 100% organic nutritional supplement for a healthy heart and circulation at hbextract.com.
Today is the last day to get free shipping on every order over $150 from Emergency Essentials. And that's not all. We have the guaranteed lowest prices anywhere, like our new Farmer's Market vegetable combo that's on sale for 50% off. That's 6 cans of freeze-dried veggies for only $79.99. Or get Mountain House pork chops for 22% off. Call Emergency Essentials at 800-999-1863 or click BePrepared.com. The choice is clear. Be unprepared or BePrepared.com.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
Every day it becomes more clear our nation is headed towards an uncertain future. Nothing can ensure your family's security like an Atlas survival shelter. The strongest money can buy and designed to be buried up to 42 feet deep with all the comforts of home and all the protection you need. Bulletproof hatches, tamper-resistant air pipes, and a unique ground design that'll withstand a bomb. See them today at iwantthatbunker.com or call 1-855-4BUNKER. Atlas Survival Shelters. Better prepared than scared.
This is Steve Shank. The St. Patrick's Day earthquake could be the forerunner to the Big One. Still got fires in the west, still got winter in the east. Now the flooding has started in the Midwest with a vengeance. Millions of you have heard me tell you that every expert survivalist knows preparation is his most important skill. When you're surprised by a storm, a quake, a flood, it's too late. What you've got is all you're going to get, and it's usually not enough for 93% of Americans. Here's some help. Please go to fearlessusa.com and download my free emergency survival guide. With each emergency checklist, you'll see the problems you may never have imagined and the solution. Go to fearlessusa.com on the web or call 855-918-3663 for Steve Shank's free emergency survival guide. This is good stuff you absolutely need to know. Go to fearlessusa.com on the web or call 855-918-3663 for your free emergency survival guide.
Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gate, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filters today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and we've got a lot of callers that want to talk to us about what's going on in Albuquerque. And I think in general about the police. To bring you up to date as to what happened yesterday, there were riots at the end of the day that actually started out as a peaceful protest in Albuquerque. It was put forward by Anonymous, who said that we're tired of this. Let them know that your city is not a place for war games against the homeless and the less fortunate. Now, this is in response to the shooting the death of homeless man James Boyd. He was illegally camping out in the hills of Albuquerque. He was confronted by the police. And he's a homeless guy. He's not necessarily altogether there, but he did absolutely nothing that would threaten these police. They're at a distance. They've got guns drawn on him. They've got a dog. They stick the dog on him. It was absolutely disgusting. We've had it up at InfoWars. The entire video is up there, not the edited mainstream media version of the video. Look at the entire video, how they shoot this guy when he's got his hands up and he turns with his back to them after he's telling them, okay, I'm going to leave, just as we talked about, don't do anything, and they shoot him in the back. Then they stick the dog on him. Then they come over and step on him. The guy's not dead yet. He did eventually die. Outrageous what they did. And, of course, the immediate response of the police chief is, no problem. This is a police department that since 2010 has had 37 shootings, 23 of them fatal. They've had more shootings than the New York Police Department, even though New York City is 16 times larger. They've had something like 4 times the national average in terms of shootings. The Justice Department was already investigating them before this happened. So there was a riot this week. I keep calling it a riot. It ended in a riot. It was actually a protest, went on for 10 hours. Over 500 people. Now, that's the media's estimate of it. I'm sure it was much more than that. After it got down to about 100 people, that was when things got violent. Now, if you want to see the pictures of the people involved, the Daily Mail is always good about pictures. You can see the picture of the man that was murdered. You can see the killers, the 2 cops who are basically being exonerated by the police department. And then, of course, you can also see some pictures of the riots there. They say that as night fell and they got down to about 100 people, that's when the police started using tear gas on the group and making arrests. They say that it got out of hand, it got violent. But this is how the Daily Mail, you can look at the pictures there, but when they describe the situation, they say the officers were attempting to effect a felony arrest using less than lethal weapons, including a distractive device, a K9, and a taser shotgun. That's what the police chief said. That is not true. I don't think that illegal camping is a felony arrest. But if you shoot somebody, if you're a civilian, it's only justified if that person is coming at you. If somebody breaks into your home and is coming at you, you are entitled to protect yourself, to shoot them. But if that person is running away from you with your TV under his arm or your computer or whatever under his arm, and he's no longer a threat to you, and you shoot him in the back, that's murder. That's what the police did. They were not being threatened by this guy. Now, they say in the Daily Mail that authorities said that he threatened to kill a crisis intervention team officer who was called to the scene, and that the video footage shows an injured Boyd with 2 5-inch knives in his hands when officers surrounded and handcuffed him. I didn't see that in the video. You take a look at the video. You take a look and see if you see that. I'd like for you to see if you can see any knives in the guy's hand. Because I guarantee you, if you watch that video, you are going to be outraged, and you should be. And so the question is, what do we do about out-of-control police? Do we as citizens just pay the bill to their families after they kill people and hope that it isn't us, hope that it isn't our family, but we just pay for the lawsuits that are now like up to $24 million, I think, in Albuquerque for the unjustified deaths of these people? Is that our response, or do we take some other kind of action? Let's go to Kyle in Pennsylvania. Kyle, what do you think about this?
Oh, hey, Mr. Knight, and I think everything that you said is spot on, and I have to preface everything I say by saying that not all police are like this, but I think the main issue is that the police have a certain feeling of separation from the population, and they feel that they are somehow entitled to a different set of laws. And they don't.
Where do you think that comes from? Where do you think that separation, that entitlement is coming from?
Well, I mean, I'm sure that, in the academy they're taught that, every time you go out on the street, your life is in danger, and, stranger danger, bad guy could be lurking around every corner, and that every mom with a stroller could have a bomb in there.
Well, yeah, actually, they put out no hesitation targets. Homeland Security did. It's coming from the federal government, Kyle. That's the people that are putting this out. They're militarizing the police. They're telling them that we're a threat to them. We're going to be right back. Hang on, Kyle. Pick you up on the other side.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. We've got the Life Straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com. Alex Jones here to tell you about how you can help spread liberty worldwide while also enjoying what I have found to be the best tasting 100% organic coffee on the planet. For more than a decade, my favorite coffee has come from the high mountains of southern Mexico, where the Chiapas farmers grow their unique shade-grown Arabica beans. We have now managed to secure these sought-after beans in a highly customized blend. Discover and try a bag of the Patriot Blend 100% organic coffee at InfoWarsLife.com. This coffee gives you a long, smooth pick-me-up for hours without the headaches and heartburn that so many other coffees give me personally. Hands down, this is my favorite coffee, and it's taken us years to secure connections directly to the Chiapas Mexican farmers. Drop by the site today, order a bag or two, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Available in original or with our Immune Support Infusion Blend. You will be supporting a free press, all the while enjoying a truly great-tasting cup of my favorite coffee. Available at InfoWarsLife.com. Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gates, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filters today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139.
Hi, I'm Janet Napolitano, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Homeland Security begins with hometown security.
It seems apparent that our citizens are staying off the streets, which may make scoring particularly difficult, even with this year's rule changes. To recap those revisions, women are still worth 10 points more than men in all age brackets, but teenagers now rack up 40 points, and toddlers under 12 now rate a big 70 points. The big score, anyone, any sex, over 75 years old, has been upped to 100 points. As always, how fast you move determines how long you live.
Resistance to tyrants is obedience to God. It's Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and I was just talking to Kyle in Pennsylvania about the out-of-control police in Albuquerque and the response of the people there. We had a protester who was quoted as saying that he was fed up with how the police are treating citizens there. It's reached a boiling point, he said, and people can't take it anymore. Over 500 people showed up for more than a 10-hour protest. They want the police chief to be fired, the police department there, even before this last shooting, was under investigation from the Department of Justice because there have been so many shootings there, so many more than the average, so many more than even New York City, which has 16 times the number of people there. So there's clearly something wrong. The taxpayers are getting hit with tens of millions of dollars in judgments in Albuquerque. What do we as citizens do about it? And Kyle, you were saying that there's good police officers out there. There certainly are. And as we've done a report over and over again in Albuquerque and in New Mexico, those good police officers get put out. We had a report as Albuquerque police are trained to shoot first. Take a look at that. That was something that we did for the nightly news. It's now up on the Alex Jones channel. It talks about this very department, and it also talks about a chief of police in a small town, Shane Harger, who, on his way to a Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association meeting, was harassed by the TSA. And the video that I've seen from the events, he was very respectful. But, you know, there's a breaking point for anybody when you get accosted by the TSA unconstitutionally over and over again. And he was threatened, and he had his entire small-town police force disbanded, and he was fired, ultimately. First he was put on suspension, and then he was fired. And when I did an investigation of this, I found that the local television station was trying to demonize him for having 2 IDs, saying that was why he was being hassled by the TSA, and there was implying that there was something shady about that. The reason the guy had 2 IDs was because of a suspected homicide by an Albuquerque police officer. And he was first on the scene, and he would not change his story. And as a result, there's a lot of things that happened to that. He was in fear of his life. I suggest you take a look at that. I'm not going to go into the entire report. It's a very interesting story. But what happens is there are good cops, and they get pushed out by the corrupt cops. And that's a great example of what happened in that story. Very sad story to see that happen to him. And I don't know what the current resolution of that is. I don't know if he is suing to get reinstated. But Kyle, did you want to say something else? Kyle in Pennsylvania.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a certain code of conduct that we as a society have, uniformly decided is a certain way a police officer should behave. And we need to realize that once an officer starts acting outside of that code of conduct, he's no longer an officer. He's a civilian, genuine population. So if a police officer shoots a clearly troubled person who's illegally camping in the woods for no reason, he doesn't get to be tried as a police officer who shot a man in the woods. He needs to be tried as a murderer. And he needs to be tried just like anybody else who would shoot an unarmed, innocent man. And as for the riots in Albuquerque, I'm sorry, but 90% of our communication is nonverbal. So when the police show up dressed like stormtroopers in armor and shields with tear gas, what are you communicating? You're communicating violence. You're saying, okay, there's going to be a rumble here, one way or another.
That's right.
We need.
They're escalating. You're breaking up an excellent point. When they show up, it is a confrontation. It is always a confrontation. And they are itching to get violent because they have been trained by Homeland Security that you are the enemy. They want to, they're militarizing the police. They are looking at the American streets as a battlefield. That's what the NDAA is about. They're making the assumption that it's a battlefield. And so you've got the police being militarized. You've got the military being used as police. Let's go to Josh in Georgia. Thank you, Kyle. Josh in Georgia, you wanted to say something about the situation in Albuquerque or the police in general?
Yes, and I apologize. I've got you on speakerphone here. I want to read something, if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
Quote, citizens may resist unlawful arrest to the point of taking an arresting officer's life if necessary. Plumer versus State, 136 Indiana.306. This premise was upheld by the Supreme Court of the United States in the case John Bad Elk v. U.S. 177, U.S. 529. The court stated, where the officer is killed in the course of the disorder which naturally accompanies an attempted arrest that is resisted, the law looks very differently, with very different eyes upon the transaction when the officer had the right to make the arrest from what it does if the officer had no right. What may be murder in the first case might not be anything more than manslaughter in the other. or the facts might show that no offense has been committed at all. Another quote, an arrest made with a...
I absolutely understand and I absolutely agree that we all have an inherent right of self-defense. And when the police or any other government official gets outside of the bounds of their lawful authority, what they've taken an oath to, they no longer have that authority. If you disobey the Constitution, if you disobey your oath, you're out of line of your authority. You're no longer a lawful authority. But I want to see this taken care of in a way that doesn't come down to us fighting it out in the streets with the police. Because, quite frankly, you can defend yourself against a cop, but they will kill you if the things don't change the way they currently are. So how do we as a society take this back? There has to be some kind of... The mayors, the city council, and of course the people that are in there are not doing it now. We have to get people elected at the local level. And right now, the local level is really where we have the best chance of an election. Elections are very rigged at the national level, especially at the presidential level. You know, whoever is counting the votes is going to determine the election, and they've got a lot of different ways that they can rig the election. But at the local level, we have a better chance of having honest elections. We need to get people who are going to stand up, in my opinion, and are going to say there are going to be penalties, not just for the taxpayer when the police overstep this. There's going to be consequences and penalties, financial judgments. If they can't convict these people because the police unions are so strong, at least they can say that you as a police officer are going to be liable for these damages in an unlawful death case. And then anything over and above what you're able to supply in those judgments is going to be taken out of the budget of the police department, let's say. Let's start trying to do some things like that to try to get them under control. The biggest part of the problem is, as Kyle was talking about, we have a due process, and yet they're not treated. They should be treated just as an ordinary criminal if they kill someone, but they're not treated that way. They get special treatment as an officer. They're not even questioned in the same way. If you go back and you look at the rules that the police unions have put in, the officers are not even questioned as criminal suspects in the same way that you or I would be questioned. Josh, did you want to say anything else?
Yes. Well, to curb it is, you know, people need to start standing up. I've said, you know, if the First Amendment is the voice, the Second Amendment is the teeth, the Fourth Amendment is the brains. And if we don't start standing up for any of them, we're not going to have any of them. And we've turned into a society of watchers. If we see something and we know that it's wrong, we pull out our phones or we pull out our cameras and we video it, but we don't help. And those people are still, even people that come to the rescue and come to the aid of someone being illegally detained are you know, allowed to. Yeah. And until we actually start standing up and saying no and doing something and drawing a line in the sand and saying no more and
I understand.
And following through with it, it's going to continue to happen.
I understand. You know, there's a lot, you've heard the thing before about the different boxes of power that we have. We've got the jury box, we've got the cartridge box, we've got the ballot box. Actually, we've got the soap box as well. But, you know, I think that we need to try to use the ballot box as much as we can, because once we get to the cartridge box, we're going to be going up against their strength in many ways, because it's kind of going to be like when the Revolutionary War was going on. They didn't win too many battles when they just lined up and fought the British on their own terms, you know, getting in a straight line and shooting each other. They won when they were pursuing asymmetric warfare. And, of course, you could even say that about a cartridge box situation. But let's try to get control of the state and the local city governments. If we can get control of that and then get control of the police, I think that would be the way to resolve this, hopefully. Jerry, thank you. Let's go to Jerry in Georgia. Jerry?
Hi, David. Thank you for taking my call. I wanted to make a point about what's on the top of Drudge. The internal Homeland Security document, it ties into all this, and the fact that we're treated like criminals. Just you got a guy who's down on his luck. He's camping out, and he's treated like a criminal. They SWAT team him. But if you look at the internal Homeland Security document, 68,000 convicted illegal alien criminals were released, caught and released.
Yeah.
872,000 whose visas have run out and have been ordered to leave the country are just floating around, have never left. And they say that they're surveilling us for our safety, but these people are just floating around. They wiretap us. They take all our phone records, metadata us for our safety, but these people are just floating around.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And as far as the Albuquerque, if you watch the video, he was murdered. They had non-lethal. They had the beanbag shotgun, the dog, and then the gun. And what did they use? The order they used it is they shot him with the gun first. Then, while he's laying there bleeding out, they shoot him with the beanbag and attack him with the dog.
Yes.
As opposed to shooting him with the beanbag if he resisted, and attacking him with the dog, and then the final option, if they're threatened and fearing for their lives, is to use the gun. So, if you want to solve it, you bring the man up on murder charges. The cop needs to go up on murder charges.
There was clearly no justification for lethal force at all there. But the thing that is really, really gut-wrenching is how they tortured the man. As you point out, they stick the dog on him after they've shot him. He's been shot, he's bleeding out, and they stick a dog on him. And then they step on him. You just have to see this, folks, because we have to get control of our government. We have to get control of them, especially at the local level, at the police. The federal government is hyping these guys up, militarizing them, teaching them that we are the enemy. We are the civilians. They're using the same kind of tactics, the same kind of terminology that they would for an occupying force in a foreign government. And of course, the founding fathers always warned us that the means of defense abroad would become the means of tyranny at home with a standing army. And we have a standing army here. We have not only a standing military army that has been in place for 60 years, since the end of World War II, constantly at war. We have a standing army here at home, the militarized police, and the police being used increasingly as military. Thank you, Jerry. Let's go to Patrick in Michigan. Patrick.
Hey, David. How you doing?
Doing fine. What you got?
Thanks for holding down the fort. Well, Alex is hopefully off getting some rest, like you said he did last week. I used to live in Key West, Florida.
Patrick, I think you're on a speakerphone. Can you pick up the phone because we're getting a lot of echo?
Let me try this.
Yeah. If anybody's on speakerphone, let's try to get these. Yeah. Let's. We'll come back to you, Patrick. Let's go to AJ in Ohio. AJ.
Yeah. Hi, David. How you doing?
Doing fine.
You talked about Trey Gowdy saying that there's no accountability. So I think what we should do is it all goes back to this morning. Blaze put up a quick video this morning that I watched, and it actually made me sick because they were showing the riots, but it was before the riots actually broke out. And there was a girl, probably a 110-pound girl or so, was crossing the street, minding her own business. She didn't say anything or do anything. And this cop blindsided this girl like, he was some kind of linebacker or something like that into a bench. And he had no reason or no justification to do such a thing. And I don't know about you, but I was raised to not strike a woman. You know, and to see that absolutely made me sick. So,
see, that's why I didn't believe these reports that were being put out by the Daily Mail and others, because when they started, the way they represented the shooting was totally not what happened. And so when they started representing the fact that the riots started when the protesters got violent, I didn't believe that either, because I think they started when the protesters got to a size that the police were comfortable attacking them. We've seen that happen. When we went to the open carry rally in San Antonio, and there was 1,000 people there with rifles, and they didn't know which ones were loaded and which ones weren't, the police were very well behaved. But as soon as pretty much everybody left and there was just a couple of people there, they started harassing those people who were left behind. Anything else you wanted to say, Patrick? I'm sorry, AJ?
That's okay. I think that right there was an instigation for them to try to start, because every man's instinct is to defend a woman when he sees her, being hurt. So here's what I think we need to do. The Info Warriors are a powerful force. I think we need to get off the couch and we need to send letters to the state representatives in that state and say, hey, look, you're going to lose your job because it's an election year unless you hold that chief accountable, because honestly an organization is defined by its leaders. So I think we need to all take a half an hour out of our day and write letters and demand accountability, or we will do everything we can to take that person's job away from them.
Absolutely. Good point. You know, in that report, that video report that I did, the Albuquerque police trained to shoot first. In spite of all this that's going on, this is the place where they had the cop who shot up the van full of kids. Remember that from last fall? Remember where they stopped the guy? The guy had a stop sign violation. They pulled him over. They took him in, gave him 8 anal probes, billed him for it. That's all New Mexico. The shooting in the van was New Mexico. The police chief who was fired was in New Mexico, the good police chief, because they're not going to fire somebody who stands up for them bullying people. But the response of the state was to change the curriculum at their police academy to a shoot-first curriculum. And one of the instructors there was so upset about that he refused to teach it. So they fired him. See, if you're a good cop, they get you out of the system in New Mexico. And that's what we're seeing happening in other places. It's not just New Mexico, but it's the worst there right now. That's where we need to fight it. We're going to be back right after the break. We're going to take some more of your calls and talk about what's going on in New Mexico and your solutions for what the police should do and how we control them. Stay tuned.
The response has been overwhelming, and for that, we say thank you. Hi, I'm Daniel, one of the founders of New Manna Food Storage. You've let us know how much you love our GMO-free and great-tasting storable food. Now, you can help a veteran enjoy that same great taste. Part of every purchase from New Manna will be donated to help a veteran in need enjoy their next meal.
Buy with confidence. Buy the best. Buy New Manna. Call 877-817-9829 or visit powerprepper.com. New Manna, food storage you'll love to eat.
We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it led back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Ted Anderson, I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Jessica Armand here, creator of My Magic Mud, the all-natural teeth whitener and strengthening remedy that's getting rave reviews from GCN listeners. Here's what Austin dentist Dr. Griffin Cole has to say about it.
I really love this Magic Mud product. Because charcoal is so absorbent, it's very effective at taking off all the sticky plaque and debris that gets stuck on our teeth every day. I highly recommend My Magic Mud.
Visit mymagicmud.com to hear the full interview with Dr. Cole. Get your jar today. That's mymagicmud.com.
A lot of people's lives and bodies are out of balance. AlkaVision Plasma pH drops optimize pH level and get rid of harmful waste and acid. Just a few drops in water restores vibrance and energy and gets you back in balance. Now order 2 bottles and get $10 off your order. Sign up for monthly auto shipping and save 25%. Call 800-518-7615 or visit alkavision.com. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health at alkavision.com.
Hi folks, Alex Jones here with some important information. I want to tell you about Matt Redhawk and his team of patriots over at My Patriot Supply. Several years ago, Matt was sitting in his 2-bedroom apartment, frustrated with the direction this country was headed and the charlatans willing to sell us out for a quick buck. Deciding to take action, a company run by patriots for patriots was born. My Patriot Supply has never taken a loan or accepted outside funding. They now operate 2 distribution facilities and employ over 50 hardworking American men and women. It is rare to find companies who practice what they preach. And that's why I stock my pantry with high-quality storable foods from My Patriot Supply. Go to mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today for special offers on emergency food storage or call their preparedness specialist at 866-229-0927. That's 866-229-0927. Do business with someone who shares your values. mypatriotsupply.com/Alex.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and we're talking to people about the Situation in Albuquerque, the out-of-control police department there, and everybody agrees they're out of control. The Justice Department has been investigating them even before this most recent shooting, and we're taking your calls on that subject. We're also going to be covering some other subjects today. In the next hour, we're going to be talking about James Lovelock. He's the guy who came up with the Gaia theory, and he's telling us that environmentalism is a religion. Yeah, it is, and we're going to talk about how that's being manifested. But I want to tell you, this hour of the Alex Jones Show is being brought to you by My Patriot Supply. Now, the path to liberty starts with attaining a level of self-reliance. My Patriot Supply is a home of a wide array of survival products, including the Patriot Pantry line of emergency food storage products. Patriot Pantry is delicious, nutritious, and prepares in minutes. Patriot Pantry offers amazing variety, great taste, and is packaged to last up to 25 years. Visit mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today to experience their top-rated customer service, top-quality products, and incredibly reasonable prices. The products you need, the service you expect, the price you can afford. Visit mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today. Now, we were just talking to callers. If there's anybody from New Mexico that has some personal experience, or perhaps was maybe even at the demonstrations yesterday and could shed some light on what happened, because these demonstrations that were going on, first it was at least 500 people. That's what the media reported. They typically underreport those numbers. As it dwindled down to 100, we just had a caller say that he saw video footage that the police shoved a young lady. Things deteriorated. The police are saying that it was when protesters got violent, that they got violent. But, of course, they show up in full riot gear in a confrontation and are in people's faces. People are already upset and angry about what was clearly the murder of an innocent man. There was not any excuse. There was no reason for these officers to feel like they were threatened by this guy. He had his back to them. He was walking away, and he was telling them, as he was putting on his backpack, it's okay, everything's fine, as we talked about, and then they just shoot him and stick the dog on him as he's dying. We've got a couple of people who are already on the line. Kelly in Texas, did you want to talk about this?
Hello?
Yes. Kelly, go ahead.
David? Hi, yes. I want to talk to you about some aviation activity that we've been witnessing increased over the last couple of weeks. I live in New Braunfels, so I am near San Antonio. We live near Randolph and Lackland. Mm-hmm. But we saw a couple of days ago 2 UN marked AC-130s followed by 4 Osprey. My husband's saying the Osprey were in the lead. And then we are building south of San Antonio and have seen loaded F-16.
So what's your
which I think is odd.
What's your take on this? Because we had a video on the InfoWars site about a large surveillance plane, looked like sealed windows and that sort of thing, doing loops right around the Austin airport here. And, of course, that was happening about a year ago downtown Austin, doing very, very low flights. So what's your take on it? What do you think is going on?
Well, my take on it, and it definitely encompasses what you're speaking of today with the police militarization, I think is a symptom of we are seeing the desperation of the oligarchy. I really think they know that their days are numbered.
Well, it's intensifying, that's for sure. And we've got a new report today up on InfoWars. Thank you very much, Kelly. We got a report about Bilderberg, where it's going to be. And we're also going to talk to you about what's coming up with the 2016 presidential election. So stay tuned. We'll be right back, and we'll take your calls on the police situation.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
The facts are in. The studies are legion. Sodium fluoride and other toxic members of the fluoride family are devastating the health and cognitive ability of the American people. So why are the social engineers adding it to the water? Simple. Dumb down the host population that the parasitic technocracy is feeding on. We may not have been able to get fluoride out of the water supply yet, but we can help to get it out of our bodies. I am extremely excited to announce the exclusive InfoWars Life Fluoride Shield formulation, fusing 6 of the best documented ingredients from around the world to help the body remove not just toxic fluoride residues from the body, but a whole host of toxic substances. Let's take a stand against the globalists by blocking their poisons with Fluoride Shield. I use Fluoride Shield every day. Secure your Fluoride Shield and other pioneering formulations at InfoWarsLife.com today. Let's start cleansing our bodies now and support the Info War at the same time. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and we've been talking about the situation in Albuquerque, the demonstrations and subsequent riot that happened. And we had a caller earlier tell us that he saw a video where a young lady was shoved by the police. That was a different riot. That was the riot in Arizona where the people were rioting because their sports team didn't win. Still not an appropriate response from the police, but that was not the Albuquerque riot. Just want to correct that. Also had another crew member suggest we're looking at solutions. How do we get the police under control? I had a crew member step in here and say, we need to look at the grand jury laws in New Mexico. Is there a way that they can bypass the official grand jury that is essentially in the control of those who are in power, who are not doing anything, who are just content to pass on the lawsuits to the taxpayer? And as I reported earlier, in New Mexico, they have changed the police academy training to a shoot first curriculum in spite of all these shootings, in spite of all this abuse. And they had a police academy instructor say that he would refuse to teach that curriculum because it was a shoot first curriculum. He was subsequently let go. Let's go to Jim in North Carolina. He says he thinks he has some solutions to this. Jim, what are your solutions?
Well, my solution is pretty simple, is that a group of people need, when they protest, to be prepared to go to jail. Once they're inside the jail, don't make bond. Go ahead and fight the thing all the way to trial. You're going to lose a trial, appeal it. You got to create a paper record to where the state agencies are properly, know that you're having problems with police. If you don't fight the cops physically, you can't. What's your argument going to be?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to take some people to essentially lay down a significant portion of their life. That's the only way that anything ever changes, isn't it? We either spend some time or some money or a huge hunk of our life to try to change things, but it's a worthy way to try to go about things. We'd asked for somebody in New Mexico to call in. Thank you very much, Jim. We've got Brian in New Mexico. Brian, do you have any firsthand knowledge of the demonstrations yesterday?
Hello?
Hello, Brian in New Mexico. Do you have any?
Yes, sorry about that.
Yes.
I'm calling from Albuquerque. It's kind of crazy. It almost feels like a pressure cooker where, it's just building up. My relationship to this, so I used to produce a public access television show. When the new mayor came in, he basically took it upon himself to give control of the station to another group. So as part of that, there's a lot of corruption and stuff with that. But as part of it, I attended several city council meetings in order to speak on keeping the public access the way it was. And I was amazed by how many times, every time I went to city council, there would be dozens of people with signs saying that a family member had been killed by a police officer. And it made me feel really petty, arguing for a television show when I'm sitting next to a 3-year-old girl whose father had been killed by the police. So I started doing some research, and this was about a year and a half ago, and when I did, of all the thousands of cities and towns in this country, Albuquerque was in the top 10 of per capita shootings of police of its own citizens. It was either number 6 or number 5, as I recall. And it just really kind of awakened me to how bad this problem was, and we're paying out millions of dollars, tax money, and all that stuff. I think the biggest problem, part of it is the culture, but I think a lot of it, too, is the federalized grants. Last night, there were armored trucks there. There were riot squads, there were SWAT teams, there were police from other cities in their armored vehicles, and it just seemed like the response was way above and beyond anything that, it demanded for it. And I know, there was forewarning with Anonymous saying that they were going to bring down the APD computers and that they were actually...
Hang on, we've got to go to break. I want to come back to you. Got a first-hand report out of New Mexico. It is absolutely amazing, but that's what they've been training for. That's what they've been itching for, is a fight with the people of America on American streets. We'll be right back.
Hi, folks. Alex Jones here with some important information. I want to tell you about Matt Redhawk and his team of patriots over at My Patriot Supply. Several years ago, Matt was sitting in his 2-bedroom apartment, frustrated with the direction this country was headed and the charlatans willing to sell us out for a quick buck. Deciding to take action, a company run by patriots for patriots was born. My Patriot Supply has never taken a loan or accepted outside funding. They now operate 2 distribution facilities and employ over 50 hardworking American men and women. It is rare to find companies who practice what they preach. And that's why I stock my pantry with high-quality storable foods from My Patriot Supply. Go to mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today for special offers on emergency food storage, or call their preparedness specialist at 866-229-0927. That's 866-229-0927. Do business with someone who shares your values. mypatriotsupply.com/Alex. The globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula, sourced from powerful organic herbs and then concentrated for maximum potency. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super Male Vitality by InfoWars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. For a limited time, we are offering 15% off Super Male Vitality at InfoWarsLife.com to introduce you to this powerful supplement. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality. InfoWarsLife.com. Why does the United States spend the largest percentage of GDP in the world on healthcare? Why do we have the highest cancer rates on the planet, the highest rates of diabetes, autism, and every other major disease? It all comes down to one thing. We are what we eat. Our food is devoid of nutrition and processed with poisons and additives. Our water is filled with toxic poisons and big pharma runoff. All of this has been engineered by design. We can turn the tide against the eugenicist by giving ourselves the nutrients our body desperately needs. To learn more, visit InfoWarsHealth.com. The site is literally packed with audio and video featuring top health professionals who don't bow down to big pharma. The fight against the New World Order starts with you, and you can't stand against the machine if you're sick, tired, and obese. When you visit InfoWarsHealth.com, be sure and check out the catalog with nearly 400 life-changing products, and get free shipping when you sign up for AutoShip.
He's the T-Rex of political talk. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and we were just talking to Brian from New Mexico, a caller who called in with some firsthand knowledge of what's going on in Albuquerque. And, of course, yesterday there were protests, which eventually became violent after about 10 hours. People are very upset about the record of shootings by the Albuquerque police, and it is above normal for the country, but it is something that I believe that we have pointed out over and over again here at InfoWars is something that's being driven from the federal government, militarization of the police, the confrontational attitude of the police, and as they've instituted in New Mexico, a shoot-first training regimen at the police academy. This is how this is going to break down. It's not just going to be a homeless man who's shot. They're going to come into your home. Look at New York. This is a story out of policestateusa.com that broke over the weekend. This is Westbury, New York, and they now have a task force, a police task force that is going to have zero-tolerance housing enforcement program. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that homeowners in the Long Island community of Westbury, about 15,000 people, have had their private property rights abridged to the point where they will no longer even be able to make autonomous decisions about what happens inside their homes. Cops will sweep through communities and conduct housing inspections without notice. A presentation given at a town hall meeting included a prop that explained the changes. The poster included the following statement, quote, "Modify search warrant law to eliminate prior notice." There we go. And aggressively use warrants and housing sweeps on a regular basis / done, exclamation mark. That's what they're going to do. They're going to have zero tolerance in your house. If they think that you've got somebody that is illegally renting in your home, whatever that means, they are going to just come in without a search warrant, without any private notice. They're going to use SWAT teams on people's individual homes if they just suspect you. This is the real danger of the police and the surveillance state. When they start having all these cameras everywhere and they start profiling people, perhaps turn it over to some artificial intelligence, and they see somebody, maybe you've got a flat tire. And so you're kind of hanging around next to a car, which happens to be your car. They don't know that. And then after a while, you duck down. And they think that there is a burglary going on, and they report that, or the AI program reports that to the police, and they show up and you stand up with a tie iron in your hand. Are they going to shoot you thinking that you've got a weapon? I mean, that's more than this guy in Albuquerque had. If they can shoot homeless people for illegally camping, can they bust into your home in New York, in Westbury, New York, without a warrant, without anything other than believing that they're enforcing a zero-tolerance program? Can they just bust in, and if you don't know who's coming in, they don't identify themselves properly? Because, you know, they like to do these no-knock raids. That's the favorite method of the SWAT teams. If you try to defend yourself, you get shot. That's where we're headed. That's why we have search warrants. That's why we didn't have SWAT teams for a couple of 100 years. But now it's out of control, and it's getting worse. We should have zero tolerance for this kind of activity from our government. We need to do something about that. We were just talking to Brian in New Mexico. Brian, I wanted you to continue with what you saw there firsthand in Albuquerque.
The biggest thing was the tear gas. A long time ago, I was in the military, and I hadn't experienced that since then. And it's just out of control. And I guess the main thing is, you know, I'm talking with people, what can be done? Because, you know, in a way, a protest demonstration is invigorating. It shows that there's camaraderie between, you know, other people that feel the same. But at the end of the day, if there's no justice, it doesn't really change anything. And that's the biggest thing, that the system seems to be so corrupt, both locally and then as you go up further and further. The feds just recently repainted a lot of the local police cars, and they used to have a slogan on the side saying, "In step with the community." That slogan is now missing. And it's just a little thing, but it just shows how we are getting further and further away from the principles that this country was founded on. Your thing about, you know, New York, where they can come into your home because you have somebody they don't like in your living room, is just outrageous. And
or because they think you may have somebody that they don't like, somebody that you maybe didn't file the proper permits for, pay the proper taxes for, so they just come in with a no-knock SWAT team raid, no search warrant.
In my personal space, if somebody was homeless, for example, and I said, "You can sleep on my couch till you get back on your feet," you know, does that make me now a criminal because I'm aiding and abetting, you know, illegal campers? The whole thing is just off, and it sounds like it's, you know, being facetious or over the top, but the situation right now is over the top. And unless there's justice, I really don't see a solution. You know, I'm not saying that these police that did that should be going to jail or whatever, but they should be having a trial. There should be some legitimate, you know, right away the police chief, you know, the new police chief, because the other one would constantly support the, you know, his troops 100%. He was finally gotten rid of. We've had a new police chief for about 2 months.
Let me stop you right there. You just said he would support his troops. See, you understand that this is a militarization, don't you? We distinctly understand that. They've been talking, if you go back and look at movies going back to the 70s or 80s, the police even then were talking about civilians versus a cop or whatever. But that has really been doubled down. That's no longer anything other than occupied territory, the way the police are operating. You understand instinctively that they're troops, aren't they?
And you just look at them yesterday with their, I mean, they look like a cross between Darth Vader and Nazis with their SS helmets and all their weapons and armored vehicles. It's just, it is so militaristic that it staggers the mind. I guess that's the hardest thing, is people just can't grasp the magnitude or how deep down this rabbit hole we've already allowed ourselves to go. And that is it. It's we've allowed it to happen. You know, people are just so hung up doing their jobs, paying the bills, watching the kids, that they really don't take time, unless something happens to you directly, to see what's going on with your neighbor or your community.
I agree.
But this situation is kind of forcing a lot of people really to take a look at where we happen to be in the crossroads that we're at.
Well, thank you, Brian, in New Mexico. That's what we're seeing everywhere. You know, at South by Southwest, Jakari Jackson went down there and was following some reports, and it was part of an open carry rally that he was covering, and he talked to a guy who was essentially pushing back against that. And Jakari said, aren't you concerned that the police would have a monopoly on force as part of the conversation? And the guy said, well, I can see where that would be a problem in Nazi Germany, but this is America. It can't happen here. It's an information problem. People don't understand what the real danger is. They don't really perceive the issue. Now, Brian in New Mexico saw this situation yesterday where they had a demonstration about the shooting of a homeless man. He just described how they look like a cross between Darth Vader and Nazis, and how they showed up completely militarized. He, just in the course of talking about it, he talked about how they were troops. It's really an information war. The good news is that we can win that. We've had some really good news this week, I think, in terms of the information war. We've got Mike Rogers announcing that he is going to be retiring, that he's going to be leaving Congress. We've also had Keith Alexander, who's been the head of the NSA for quite a period of time, also stepping down. Why is it that these guys are leaving? I think it's because they have such low credibility that they could tell people that the sky is blue and nobody would believe them anymore. They've got to get some different people in there, and they're hoping that if they do, they're going to have some more credibility. But you know what? They're not. Just changing the face there is not going to give them more credibility. Now, a couple of things are going on with Mike Rogers, and we had a breaking story here that Kurt Nimmo had on InfoWars. House Intel boss says that Putin is looking to invade Eastern Europe. Meanwhile, multiple sources say there's no sign of Russian military buildup. That's kind of par for the course for Mike Rogers. Always pushing for war, always pushing for the surveillance state, never having any justification for either. Says here, points out in the article, Rogers made the claim despite a complete lack of evidence. That's exactly what we see with the rest of his claims about war. And we also see that there was an article from, now as he's leaving for and not standing for re-election, the question is he leaving because he can't win? Or is he leaving because they've got a bigger task for him? I think that the answer is both, actually. There was a story that was on Political Wire, and when they reported that he was leaving, they said that his district is currently rated as a safe Republican district by the Rothenberg Political Report. But without Rogers, it could be competitive because Mitt Romney carried the district by only 3 points in 2012. Obama won it by 6 points in 2008. You know what? I don't think he would win after he's been the poster child for the surveillance state for the last year after the Snowden leaks. He's the one pushing back constantly. He's the one making jokes about killing Snowden. See, when somebody exposes criminal activity, whether it's the United States or whether it's Turkey, then they attack the whistleblower who is exposing the criminal activity. In Turkey, when the criminal activity was exposed, where we had the head of intelligence, the head of the military, political heads talking and actively plotting about how they're going to stage a false flag attack against a tomb of Suleiman Shah that is claimed to be Turkish territory, that is being guarded by Turkish soldiers so that they could start a war with Syria. When that's exposed, they shut down YouTube, and the mass media only talks about the fact that YouTube is shut down. And then parrot the lines from the government, from the Turkish government, that the people who expose this are villainous and dishonest. No, the people who are villainous and dishonest are the ones who are plotting to kill their own countrymen in order to start a war with another country. And that's the same kind of attitude we've seen from Mike Rogers and the cheerleaders for the NSA. They attacked Snowden. They attacked the people who are exposing the criminal activity. And quite frankly, I don't think he could get reelected again. But he's going to try to do an Operation Mockingbird. They're losing the information war. They say they have no credibility. And so they're trying to put some people in those positions. We're going to be right back. We're going to talk a little bit more about this, as well as taking your calls about what's going on in Albuquerque and what we can do to try to rein in the police. We'll be right back.
How can you save a ton of money and prepare for emergencies? By having your own in-home freeze dryer from Harvest Right. Now you can cut down on wasted food by freeze drying your leftovers. That's right. Create your own long-term food storage by freeze drying your own fruits, meats, vegetables, even complete meals with the Harvest Right in-home freeze dryer. Imagine the savings and the peace of mind. See how the amazing Harvest Right freeze dryer works at harvestright.com.
The Victory Seed Company is a family-owned, farm-based organization working to keep rare, open-pollinated heirloom seeds available for your home garden with no unstable hybrids or GMO seeds sold. Learn about their mission at victoryseeds.com. And for a limited time, enter Victory at checkout to receive a free garden planting tool on orders over $10. Grow your Victory garden with Victory brand seeds. victoryseeds.com.
Great news, Pure Water lovers. BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com has a special discount offer for all GCN listeners. You can't do better than a Big Berkey for economy. For only 1.7 cents a gallon, a single set of filters can last for 5 to 10 years. There's none better than a Big Berkey for emergency preparedness as a backup water source. And you just can't beat a Big Berkey to remove dangerous chlorine, all types of fluoride, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, parasites, and unhealthy byproducts from municipal water. Berkey water filter systems are even powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water. For the gold standard in water filters, get a Big Berkey at BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. And all GCN listeners get 5% off all ceramic filter systems. For details, call 1-877-99-BERKEY. That's 877-99-BERKEY. Big Berkey Water Filters, for the love of clean water.
Honey, look, I'm getting jerky with it.
You're getting what?
Getting jerky with it. I'm getting jerky at jerkyspot.com. They've got over 100 delicious jerkies to choose from, like crunchy maple bacon jerky, cranberry jalapeno, and even liquor-infused beef jerky.
Go to jerkyspot.com today and save $5 on your first order. Use the code TRYJERKYSPOT. Jerkyspot.com. It's all your favorite jerky in one spot.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
Hi folks, Alex Jones here with some important information. I want to tell you about Matt Redhawk and his team of patriots over at My Patriot Supply. Several years ago, Matt was sitting in his 2-bedroom apartment, frustrated with the direction this country was headed and the charlatans willing to sell us out for a quick buck. Deciding to take action, a company run by patriots for patriots was born. My Patriot Supply has never taken a loan or accepted outside funding. They now operate 2 distribution facilities and employ over 50 hardworking American men and women. It is rare to find companies who practice what they preach. And that's why I stock my pantry with high-quality storable foods from My Patriot Supply. Go to mypatriotsupply.com/Alex today for special offers on emergency food storage, or call their preparedness specialist at 866-229-0927. That's 866-229-0927. Do business with someone who shares your values. mypatriotsupply.com/Alex.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and we've been taking calls from people about the demonstrations in Albuquerque that turned violent this last weekend after they shot that homeless man. And if you haven't seen that video, if you haven't seen Alex Jones seeing that video for the first time, you need to see that video. Now, we're talking about how they've militarized the police. It's something we talk about here frequently at InfoWars because it is a very serious problem. There was an article that just came out at the New American, said, why is Homeland Security paying to put cities under surveillance? And they point out the Santa Monica Police Department received nearly $800,000 from DHS, that's the Homeland Security Department, just days ago, on March 28th. This is what they're going to use the money for. Funds were requested to purchase equipment and training that supports regional Homeland Security goals, specifically an automated license plate reading system for the police department, terrorism liaison officer training, hazardous material training and equipment, urban search and rescue. Yeah, they're going to rescue you, all right. This is police state stuff, guys. And they're talking about how ineffective these cameras everywhere have been. The article points out that in Houston, citizens of Houston should overlook their elected leaders' acceptance of such federal largesse, given that the 900 or so surveillance cameras already in place have had no favorable effect on the crime rate in the city. And the local CBS affiliate, KHOU, says officials say data is not being kept to determine if the cameras are driving down crime. And the article in New American asks, if the cameras aren't being used to reduce crime, then what are they being used for? That's right. They are not there to protect you, folks. We're looking to create a maximum security state. A maximum security state is a maximum security prison. And that's what is being created here with our tax money. You know, people will often ask, are we headed for Brave New World, or are we headed for a 1984 Orwell society? What does our society look like? More of one novel or more of the other novel? We got two dystopian pictures of society. Of course, in 1984, Orwell's version of it, it was an iron fist, as I think he put it. It was a boot stamping in somebody's face forever. Big Brother watching everything you do, this gray, dark world. But of course, Aldous Huxley gave us a view of the Brave New World, and in his view, it was all fun and games. It was sexualizing the children at an early age. It was destroying the family. It was overwhelming people with pleasure. So which is it? We certainly see both elements in our society. In my opinion, I think we've got both going on, but at different levels. You know, in 1984, the people who were not at the, let's say, middle class or above, were pretty much left alone. They pretty much left the proles alone, the proletariat. They ignored them. I think those are the people who basically opt out of the system, who are just content to be entertained with games and television. Those are the people that they're using the Brave New World tactics on. I think the people who are in the middle class and the working class and above, especially people who are a part of the government bureaucracy, they're getting the Brave New World treatment. That's where the police state kicks in. Anybody that may be a threat to their power base is going to get the 1984 treatment. If you're content to just sit back and be entertained to death, you get the Brave New World. We've got some callers who have been on the phone telling us about what they think might be solutions to the police state. Let's go to Joseph in Texas. Joseph?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. Joseph in Texas.
Okay, well, you know, first I have a few things I wanted to say, but I've been listening, you know, and I live in Dallas, and, you know, I've actually looked at getting into law enforcement myself. I'm a young guy, and I have a lot of friends of mine that are in the sheriff's department in my local area. and a lot of these guys are talking about this stuff, and they're like 100%, aware of it, or even more so than you expect. They're totally, against it. But the thing that surprises me is that they kind of have the attitude of, there's nothing they can even do about it. This kind of stuff, And so the kind of solution that I think that people everyone I talk to, I always try to instill in people is the fact that it's a personal responsibility. That the fact that when you talk to people, they just they turn around and they put forth the attitude that it's just that's the way it is and that's the way it's going to be. And there's no resistance, even just talking about it. They're okay with the police having all the weaponry in the world, but us having none.
That's a good point, and I think really the way out of this is the way that we see from organizations like Oath Keepers and the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. These kind of officers who see the danger and understand where this leads, they need to understand that they are not alone. This is the way that it ended in East Germany when the guards refused to shoot people who were going over the fence. Thank you, Joseph. We're going to be right back, and we're going to take some more of your calls right after this break about the police state. Stay tuned.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. Introducing Pro One. All of your filtration in one system, portable, on the go. No more do you have 2 or 3 filters to just reduce sodium fluoride. You have a system that cuts out the sodium fluoride and up to 95% of hydrofluorosilicic acid. Advanced manufacturing technology combines silver-impregnated white ceramic with new Aquamedics advanced media for removal of fluoride and other heavy metals, all in one filter element. It is the only one that does it, and out of the gate, we have it discounted at 10% off with promo code WATER. This is the only system that in one unit helps reduce or remove pesticides, herbicides, chloramines, ammonia, and chlorine, hydrofluorosilicic acid, the most common form of fluoride not covered by other fluoride filter brands, and sodium hexafluorosilicate. Get your Pro Pure with the new Pro One filters today at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139. Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. We've got the Life Straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com.
Take you live to the Central Texas Command Center and the heart of the resistance. It's Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. We've been talking about the police state about the surveillance state and how they're losing the info war. Still very powerful on the streets, still treating citizens as targets. But how do we roll this back? Well, I think the key thing is that people need to understand on a broader basis what's really at stake here. People in Albuquerque understand because it has gotten to such a bad degree there. Will people in other areas of the country understand what the federal government is doing as it pushes the militarization of the police, as it wants to use the military as police? Now, there was an interesting thing that happened in Belgium this last week where Obama was asked a question about the surveillance state. But before we go to that clip, I want you to hear that clip. We've seen Mike Rogers, the cheerleader for the police state, as head of the House Intelligence Committee. We've seen him say that he's no longer going to run for office. He's going to step down and go into talk radio. Why? Because I don't think he can win there. This is a Republican district that they've carved out in Michigan, but it's always been close, going 2 or 3 points one way or the other in the presidential elections. And I think for the last year, he has been the spokesperson for the NSA. I think he has totally lost his credibility. Just last week, Mike Rogers and Dutch Ruppersberger, he's a Democrat from Maryland, introduced from the House Intelligence Committee a bill that they called End Bulk Collection Act. End the Bulk Collection Act. Well, as we always see from these congressional bills, it does exactly the opposite thing. It doesn't end bulk collection. It makes provision for how the data is going to be bulk collected and who's going to store it. All they're doing is moving it from their servers essentially to the servers of their corporate entities that they partner with. So here he has absolutely no credibility. Keith Alexander is leaving the NSA. They're trying to put a different face on it because look at how Obama was received in Belgium. People there are very concerned, probably even more so than Americans are, about how they're being surveilled. And so they had a questioner ask him about the surveillance state. And Obama gives this rambling answer, and there is absolutely no applause at the end, even though the guy who comes up and takes over kind of tells people, you know, that's it, that's all the questions, kind of hint, hint. Now's the time for applause. They had everything except an applause sign, but they couldn't get anything, just the sound of one man clapping. Listen to this.
Checks, balances, legal processes. The good news is that I'm very confident that it can be achieved. And I'm also confident that the core values that America has always believed in terms of privacy, rule of law, individual rights, that has guided the United States for many years and will continue to guide us into the future. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay. Thank you again.
One person starts to clap and stops.
The last question. Thank you very much for coming.
That was the last question. Now's your chance. You need to applaud. He's kind of awkwardly walking off. The way he is exiting is the same way that Keith Alexander is exiting, the same way that Mike Rogers is exiting. Nobody believes it anymore. We were told last summer that we saw a meeting of the Defense Department, Public Relations, and we had a young lady stand up and said, nobody believes us anymore. It's just mindless propaganda. Absolutely. They keep telling us that it's just metadata, and it doesn't matter. People need to wake up to that aspect of it. Here's an article that was on our website, how the NSA can use metadata to predict your personality. And the person who put forward this study said, we see a lot of comments along the lines of, it's only metadata. It's not personal. And it only gets personal when a human looks into it. We wanted to show an example at a small scale of what you might be able to do with that data on just things like how long a call lasts, when the calls are made, where the calls are made. And what they did was they took the standard personality types that psychologists would come up with, neurotic, open, extroverted, agreeable, conscientious, those different types of things. And they just looked at simple things like basic phone use, the number of calls, active user behavior, like the time it took for the subject to answer a call, simple things like that, location, the regularity of their calling routine. And they were able to pretty accurately, much better than just random, they were able to profile people. See, they can predict where you're going to be in the next 24 hours looking at your metadata just as accurately or more accurately than you can. In many ways, the metadata is more intrusive than just listening to your phone call or reading your email. They can actually glean a lot more from that. So people need to wake up. I think people are waking up. You see the frosty reception that Obama got. You see these guys are having to leave. They cannot allow Mike Rogers to stand for re-election and lose. That would be a huge black eye to the security state. But guess what, Mike? You've already lost. We've got your number. And I can't wait until he gets on the air and people start calling him. That's going to be some good radio that might actually give him a boost in his ratings. One other thing on the police state before we get back to callers here. This is something that came out of the Washington Post, and it was an article. We talked about it briefly yesterday. It was Franz Kafka meets the National Security Agency. And, of course, Kafka loved to write stories about the mindless, unresponsive bureaucracy stonewalling people. Here's a guy who was trying to get information about his father, who had been a syndicated columnist, and he was illegally wiretapped by the CIA in 1963, a very, very long time ago. This information should now be declassified. He tried to get information from the NSA. He tried to get it from the CIA. Nobody's going to talk to him. He actually was able to get some information from the FBI, but what I thought was the most interesting thing was the response from the NSA. This is from their chief of staff of the Freedom of Information Act Privacy Appeal Authority. And she says, as a result of my review, I've concluded that the appropriate response is to continue to neither confirm or deny the existence or non-existence of any intelligence material on your father. To do so when challenged under the FOIA Act would result in the exposure of intelligence information, sources, and methods which could harm our national security and severely undermine NSA activities in general. This is something that happened 50 years ago when they were looking at a journalist. And I'm sure it would tell us things about the NSA that we already know, really. But what I thought was most interesting about this was that this person was chief of staff. They've got an entire crew of bureaucrats in their FOIA department who don't give any information out. That's where the Kafka comes in. They've got an entire staff. She's got people working for her. And if they're going to not give information about a journalist who was tapped in 63, 50 years ago, if they're not going to give information out about him, they're not going to give any information about anybody. But she's got an entire staff that she's chief of. This is the kind of bloated police state bureaucracy that is out of control, that is both stupid and offensive and dangerous at the same time. This is what we're currently seeing. This is what we have to fight. We're winning in many respects, but there's a lot still to be done, especially with people not understanding what's going on with militarization of the police. As we pointed out, the 2 billion bullets, the armored personnel carriers that Homeland Security is getting people. These are the things we're very concerned about. Let's take a couple of more calls on this subject. Jerry in Ohio, you've been on for a long time.
How you doing, Dave?
Doing fine. Thanks for holding. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a couple quick comments here. In Northeast Ohio here, they're really trying to get the public to embrace this mafia police state. They're even going into these churches and forming anti-violence church programs where if you see something, you're to watch and to tell.
See something, say something.
Really, they're really boosting that to get everybody to spy on everybody up here. And with all the cameras and all the, they got the streets all laid out in grids.
See, Jerry, I find that so disturbing because, the way things got rolled back in East Germany was when people, they were shooting people who were trying to escape, trying to get over the wall. They had guards who were shooting people. You know the way that stopped? That stopped when people met at churches and had a silent vigil en masse. They started walking to protest that, and the police and the guards at the gates there in East Germany stood down. But it was led by the churches, and the churches are the ones who have a lot of moral authority, who could try to get people to organize against the wholesale slaughter of people, against the escalating violence. But instead, as you point out, so many of them are becoming quislings for the state, spying on their fellow citizens. Go ahead.
And also, you know, they're like if you go to a festival or like a demolition derby or something, you know, you see these stormtroopers standing around watching everybody, and you know, people are just getting so accustomed up here in Northeast Ohio to seeing these military helicopters going over. We're seeing drones up here. You know, they bring out their military in the parades, and people just clap and and go crazy for them, and they'll set like an army tank or a jeep or with machine guns out in the middle of a parking lot at a school where kids can go out and climb on it, and oh, it's so wonderful, you know, that our military has these weapons to defend us. What are they going to think when they start rolling down our streets and they have Chinese and Mexican troops in them, and they're telling people to go back home or they'll be killed?
Well, you know, it's sad, as you mentioned, every time we have a public event anymore, it seems like as they start driving down the streets in their militarized vehicles, it's starting to look more and more like a May Day parade in communist Russia or China, isn't it? You know, where they portray their military might in our face all the time.
But yeah, they're going into the churches up here, and they're telling people, if you see something or you're not sure about something, call the police. Yeah. I mean, that is really getting down to where people have no rights up here at all. They have township people that if you build a little thing to put mulch in, they'll drive around, they'll take pictures of it and take pictures of your house, and they'll report you, and then they'll come out to try to raise your taxes like you're doing home improvement.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
That's where it
like
starts.
Communist China here.
Yes, it is. No respect for private property. Just as I pointed out earlier, in Westbury, New York, they are going to basically have zero tolerance. If they think that you've got somebody in your home staying with you that you haven't okayed with them, they're assuming that they've got the authority to tell you who you can and cannot have in your private home. They're going to SWAT team you without a search warrant, and they're very proud of that. Thank you, Jerry. Let's go to Josh in Washington. Josh, thank you for holding. You've been on for quite a while.
Yeah, hey, David. Thanks for having me on. I'm a former military security and asset protection specialist for the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. And in that training that we got, we were extensively trained in the application of lethal force. And the core of that training is something called the escalation of force. And it's basically a common sense approach to handling confrontation. If someone is standing there with their fists, no weapon, you can't just shoot them.
Yeah.
If someone is standing there with a knife, you can't shoot them in the head.
That's right.
You can't even really take these steps to immobilize them without using non-lethal steps first. I watched the video in its entirety. It was a murder.
It was.
Clearly a murder. There was no application of escalation of force. This is the first I've heard on the program today of any kind of shoot first policy, which completely goes against anything that I was trained, which every training I've had in regards to the application of lethal force, there was the inherent, you honored human life.
Yes.
Regardless of what was happening. You didn't honor your life first. You honored human life.
I've seen people comment and say that everybody knows a retired police officer who says that it was considered a failure if you drew your weapon. You had failed to de-escalate this situation. That's exactly what you're talking about. But what we're seeing in New Mexico and in other places is that the state and federal government are driving policies to get the police to be more aggressive. That's what they're teaching them. That's why they're calling it the Shoot First curriculum in New Mexico. That's why one of the instructors refused to teach that. He'd been an instructor for quite some time. They fired him. They're changing the rules of engagement. They're changing the way they view the citizens of America. They're teaching them that they're operating in a battle zone. That is fundamentally what the NDAA was about. It was under the assumption that the entire world, including American streets, was a battle zone, and that they were going to be able to use the military to pick up people, to hold them, to detain them without trial, and hold them indefinitely without ever accusing them of anything, as if they were on a military battlefield.
it falls right into line with it being a psyop. I mean, if things like this are continuously happening, because it has somebody like me who has common sense and training, I'm scared of the police.
Yes.
I'm scared to death of the police. I have 3 young children, and this could happen to any one of us.
Yes.
And the fact that no medical care was called. Like, I watched the entire video. The moment that they seen that they were going to have a physical confrontation, irregardless of whether lethal force was going to be applied, EMT should have been called. They were in rocky terrain. Even if they were going to have to physically detain that guy, somebody was getting hurt.
Yeah.
So there was obviously things that didn't happen, and to see the police chief get on television and say that they've followed procedure to the T is nauseating. Makes me sick.
It was.
And there's
disgusting.
really this is a symptom of the systemic poisoning that we have in the United States. And these cops are a symptom of the over-fluoridated, GMO, bloated, mindless, lobotomized people. And they have no common sense. They did not think.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many homeless people you have been around, but guns have value. People who are homeless usually don't have a lot of money. And if they have something of value, it goes to something else.
That's very right. Yes, thank you so much. You're exactly right. It's escalating this beyond all reason, and anybody that hasn't seen this really needs to take a look at it. A good way to see it is when Alex Jones saw it for the first time. It was pretty amazing. I was amazed as I watched it. I couldn't sit still. I had to stand up to watch this. Let's go to Forrest in California. Forrest?
Hi, David. Howdy.
Hi.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about our free speech and the Bill of Rights and how it's really a vehicle for peace, love, and prosperity. And if we don't use it, we're going to lose it. It's just like if we have a car parked on the street for weeks on end. It'll be towed. And so, somebody has to at least use it to move it somewhere else. And I want to talk about how this show and all the documentaries and all the hard work you guys are doing is part of God's plan on earth, having heaven on earth in the present and forevermore. And we are to pray without ceasing. There's every time we expose corruption, the anti-American, anti-constitutional laws, policies, and actions, that is a prayer. And we also need to keep our eye on the prize, like what we do want.
Very good point. We got to go to a commercial break. We're going to talk about that after we come back. We're going to talk about how we should live. That was a question that Francis Schaeffer asked. Hang on, we'll be right back.
Silver has always been nature's very own antibiotic, and only one system allows you to generate an endless supply of natural silver solutions. SilverLungs.com. You'll find no wild claims or pseudoscience, just a lifetime of nano-sized pure silver solutions. The Silver Lungs generator allows you to make your own, so stop paying for silver solutions. The unique lung delivery system targets respiratory infections where other silver solutions simply cannot reach. See the Silver Lungs generator and lung delivery system at SilverLungs.com. That's SilverLungs.com.
Attention gun owners. It's reasonable to assume that at some point you may need to defend your family from an armed attack. But is it reasonable to mount a defense without a strong offense? Infidel Body Armor goes on in seconds. Is civilian legal in all 50 states. Is 100% made in the USA. Is veteran owned and ships next business day for free. Go to InfidelBodyArmor.com. INFIDEL Bodyarmor.com. Infidel Body Armor. Just won't quit.
The facts are in. The studies are legion. Sodium fluoride and other toxic members of the fluoride family are devastating the health and cognitive ability of the American people. So why are the social engineers adding it to the water? Simple. Dumb down the host population that the parasitic technocracy is feeding on. We may not have been able to get fluoride out of the water supply yet, but we can help to get it out of our bodies. I am extremely excited to announce the exclusive InfoWars Life Fluoride Shield formulation, fusing 6 of the best documented ingredients from around the world to help the body remove not just toxic fluoride residues from the body, but a whole host of toxic substances. Let's take a stand against the globalists by blocking their poisons with Fluoride Shield. I use Fluoride Shield every day. Secure your Fluoride Shield and other pioneering formulations at InfoWarsLife.com today. Let's start cleansing our bodies now and support the Info War at the same time. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
Hi there. My name is Frank Bates. What I'm about to tell you in the next 60 seconds could get me in a lot of trouble. I just created a free video presentation at 123coverup.com that exposes the electricity monopolies and government agencies for what they really are: incompetent, lying crooks that are counting on your ignorance and fear to keep your power bills criminally high. Some have called this a conspiracy. Others have called it a cover-up, and you will be shocked to find out how deep the conspiracy goes. My video at 123coverup.com exposes the truth and shows you the secret of how I beat them and how you can beat them too. Watch the controversial video that thousands of other smart patriots have already seen in the last 3 months. Go to 123coverup.com and discover one weird trick to slash your power bill and protect your home. Go watch my video now at 123coverup.com before they force me to shut it down. Again, that's 123coverup.com.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. We were just talking to Josh in Washington. I want to get him to finish up with his comments. And we have David from New Mexico, who was actually at the rally that turned violent towards the end there in Albuquerque about the police shooting. But we also have this video of this, and we've been showing this off and on for those people who are watching it, of this young lady who was just clocked by the police in Arizona as part of this. Look at that. That's just amazing. That's just amazing. You know, how do you get control of an out-of-control thug like that? This big fat cop comes running up, he's like running at her and just punches her, knocks her into a bench. Just amazing, the brutality, the unprovoked brutality. Why aren't these people going to jail? What can we do to stop it? Josh in Washington. Oh, he did drop off. Okay, let's go to David in New Mexico. David, you said you were at the rally?
Yes, I was. Good morning, David. My name is David, and I was at the rally yesterday. I also went to the one on Tuesday. I had a few points I wanted to make here.
Sure.
At the rally, I actually made a few statements there, and I just wanted to mention that I did call for Governor Martinez, Mayor Berry, and Chief Eden to all be held accountable because they're obviously complicit in this act. If you look at the tape, you can clearly hear, and I quote this from the tape, this is one of the officers saying, "In a private world, if you were down at a bar or a bus stop, I would have the right to kill you right now because you're trying to take me over. Don't get stupid with me."
Wow.
Secondly, I also wanted to make another point. KRQE, the mainstream media here, is also involved in the cover-up as well. On their website, they're the ones that actually, you can look at this article up there on their website. It's called APD Officer Involved Shooting Justified, KRQE.com. On the article, it actually says, it tries to claim that Boyd is the one that's making that statement there. So they're actually twisting it and lying about the article.
The media came after Shane Harger, this police chief from Jimenez Springs, and tried to paint him as somebody that was evil because he had two IDs. Well, he had two IDs because he showed up at a shooting where an Albuquerque police officer's wife had been shot. The police officer was saying that it was a suicide that she had committed with his service revolver, but Shane Harger didn't believe it was a suicide. It didn't look consistent with that. And although it was out of their jurisdiction, even though it was in the county, there were police officers, lieutenant, I think is a detective, who showed up and started destroying evidence. And Shane Harger would not back down off of his story. He changed his name because he got death threats. So, yeah, there are some good cops out there. I'm sorry, I interrupted you. You had some other points to make.
I am aware of the case. Actually, I'm familiar with Sandoval County, where that sheriff was located in Jimenez Springs. But I just wanted to mention, though, please check out that article. It's APD Officer Involved Shooting Justified, and the media is trying to say Boyd is the one saying it when it's clear that the officer is saying that.
The media is definitely complicit in a lot of this. They were the ones trying to demonize Shane Harger. Go ahead.
Well, the problem is it's systemic corruption, whether it's the government or the media. They all seem to be involved. One other point, I am an engineer as well, a civil engineer. I'm part of the member of A911 Truth. I've signed the petition calling for a new investigation, and as I mentioned, it's so systemic that even the engineering boards won't even confront this issue. I've contacted all 50 engineering boards personally, as well as the American Society of Civil Engineers, and they totally ignore the fact that World Trade Center 7 fell at free fall acceleration, which is impossible. I just wanted to make that point. And one last point, if I may. We're in the battle right now here in New Mexico of fighting corporate personhood. There's a case where Mora County is trying to ban fracking and they're trying to protect the water rights of the people here. We're in a very bad drought, and we're just trying to protect our resources. It's an interesting case. If you look it up on the internet, you can find it at change.org, Mora fracking. And thanks for your time, David.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's not... Part of it is not just corruption. Part of it is people's inability to believe that someone in government could act criminally. We have to get over that. We'll be right back. We've got some more stories, some different breaking news we're going to cover. Stay tuned.
This is GCN, the Genesis Communications Radio Network.
Alex Jones here to tell you about how you can help spread liberty worldwide while also enjoying what I have found to be the best tasting 100% organic coffee on the planet. For more than a decade, my favorite coffee has come from the high mountains of southern Mexico, where the Chiapas farmers grow their unique shade-grown Arabica beans. We have now managed to secure these sought-after beans in a highly customized blend. Discover and try a bag of the Patriot Blend 100% organic coffee at InfoWarsLife.com. This coffee gives you a long, smooth pick-me-up for hours without the headaches and heartburn that so many other coffees give me personally. Hands down, this is my favorite coffee, and it's taken us years to secure connections directly to the Chiapas Mexican farmers. Drop by the site today, order a bag or two, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Available in original or with our Immune Support Infusion Blend. You will be supporting a free press, all the while enjoying a truly great-tasting cup of my favorite coffee. Available at InfoWarsLife.com.
Waging war on corruption. Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
Welcome to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host for this hour, and we've been talking to callers about riots that took place over the weekend. One of them in Arizona, we saw this video of a police officer. I guess we could call him a police officer. I think he was just a thug, actually, using his baton instead of, as one of the crew members here pointed out, using his baton instead of his hands, because that would be assault. But he can use his baton to push this young lady who's just standing there, walking along with a drink in her hand, knocked her right over. I mean, how can we allow, quote unquote, government servants to continue to do this? We have to get these people under control. We have to get them under control now. People are trying to do that in New Mexico, where we saw the murder of a homeless man by police officers, excused by the police chief there immediately. We've had many people call in talking about the rules of engagement as they were trained. Of course, we know anybody that has taken, for instance, a concealed carry class knows that you cannot shoot somebody when they are no threat to you. Clearly, if you watch this video, the man was no threat to them. I wanted to move on to some different news now. We had... came out today on InfoWars, Paul Joseph Watson's story that Bilderberg 2014 has been uncovered. They are going to meet in Denmark. Yes, this is the secretive organization of global power brokers that for many decades, of course, did not exist according to the mainstream media. Many of us are pointing that out. Alex Jones has been on that from the get-go, but of course, we were scoffed at and laughed at. Alex was called a conspiracy theorist to even use the word Bilderberg. And yet, it's now become a open secret. It's still secretive. They still don't tell people what's going on there. We can see who is going on there. And, of course, last year, the focus apparently was big data. We saw the likes of Jeff Bezos, people who were involved with Palantir, PayPal, and other organizations like that showing up at Bilderberg talking about what they were going to do. And so this year will be no different. And of course, as Paul Joseph Watson points out in his article, in 2009, Bilderberg chairman even bragged about how the euro single currency was a brainchild of the Bilderberg group. Leaked minutes from the, I think it was a 1956 meeting, it was close to one of their first meetings, showed how they were planning at the time for the EU and for the euro. They were planning consolidation. They were planning global world government. And last year, we had an Italian lawyer that requested the public prosecutor of Rome to investigate Bilderberg for criminal activity, questioning whether the group's 2011 meeting in Switzerland led to the selection of Mario Monti as the Prime Minister of Italy. Of course, that is an unelected person. Mario Monti was unelected. He is a former Goldman Sachs banker, and they just took out the guy that had been elected, and they put in the Goldman Sachs banker, calling him a technocrat, because that makes it okay if you call him a technocrat. Now, there's other kinds of meetings just besides Bilderberg, of course, and we saw one that was very interesting over the weekend. We saw Chris Christie and Jeb Bush and John Kasich and Scott Walker, all governors or former governors, all going to Vegas to meet a sugar daddy for the Republican Party. That would be Sheldon Adelson. And if you remember the 2012 elections, he had a big role to play in Vegas in the caucuses there. It was a pretty disgusting display of corrupt power, in my opinion. And they reported this in the New York Times. Seeking political revival, Christie joins 2016 contenders at a GOP forum. Now, they're talking for the most part because Sheldon Adelson is a neocon. He, especially when it comes to Israel, he's part of the Republican Jewish coalition. And he has contributed a lot of money in the last election cycle, just his family, $93 million. And so we're going to report about it. It was actually kind of funny what happened to Chris Christie as he's trying to get himself out of Bridgegate when he went to Vegas. We'll be right back with that information and more of your calls, so stay tuned.
In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. Why does the United States spend the largest percentage of GDP in the world on healthcare? Why do we have the highest cancer rates on the planet, the highest rates of diabetes, autism, and every other major disease? It all comes down to one thing. We are what we eat. Our food is devoid of nutrition and processed with poisons and additives. Our water is filled with toxic poisons and big pharma runoff. All of this has been engineered by design. We can turn the tide against the eugenicist by giving ourselves the nutrients our body desperately needs. To learn more, visit InfoWarsHealth.com. The site is literally packed with audio and video featuring top health professionals who don't bow down to big pharma. The fight against the New World Order starts with you, and you can't stand against the machine if you're sick, tired, and obese. When you visit InfoWarsHealth.com, be sure and check out the catalog with nearly 400 life-changing products and get free shipping when you sign up for AutoShip. The facts are in. The studies are legion. Sodium fluoride and other toxic members of the fluoride family are devastating the health and cognitive ability of the American people. So why are the social engineers adding it to the water? Simple. Dumb down the host population that the parasitic technocracy is feeding on. We may not have been able to get fluoride out of the water supply yet, but we can help to get it out of our bodies. I am extremely excited to announce the exclusive InfoWars Life Fluoride Shield formulation, fusing 6 of the best documented ingredients from around the world to help the body remove not just toxic fluoride residues from the body, but a whole host of toxic substances. Let's take a stand against the globalists by blocking their poisons with Fluoride Shield. I use Fluoride Shield every day. Secure your Fluoride Shield and other pioneering formulations at InfoWarsLife.com today. Let's start cleansing our bodies now and support the Info War at the same time. That's InfoWarsLife.com.
gathered in their masses, just like witches.
He aligns himself with the truth, and it's time for you to choose a side. You're listening to Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. Now, we just had some news on InfoWars about the Bilderberg Conference, where it's going to be. It's going to be in Denmark this year. But there's actually something else that happened this weekend, and that was the Sheldon primary. Haven't you heard of the Sheldon primary? You know, that's Sheldon Adelson. Remember back in 2012? This was the guy in Las Vegas that got his very own caucus. That's right. That was the way The Atlantic reported it. This was the guy who had a caucus that was just for Jewish people, and nobody else is going to be allowed to go to that because, see, if you had to work as a working mom and you couldn't attend the caucuses on Saturday night, then you were not going to be allowed to go to the caucus on Sunday. That was only going to be for Jewish voters. Well, that's not the way it turned out. People showed up anyway and said, you can't exclude us based on religion from caucusing. If you're going to add another day for convenience for somebody else or because they have a reason that they can't attend on Saturday night, then you're going to allow us to come in too. It's no more of a reason to say that you can't do it for religious reasons than to say that you can't do it because you're working a job. So this guy who had his very own caucus in Nevada, and it was a very, very corrupt caucus. This is one of those caucuses where the GOP showed its worst, most corrupt side, and there were several of those, and there were state officials that got taken out of office because of that. But now it's coming up to the 2016 elections, and this same guy, Sheldon Adelson, is holding the Sheldon primary. Now, that was just this last weekend, and that was the way it was reported from Haaretz. That's a Jewish newspaper. He's deciding who he's going to put his money on. And, of course, he's got a lot of money to put down. This guy is a multi-billionaire, and he gave $93 million in the last presidential election. Let's put that into perspective. Al Gore in 2000 spent about $100 million total. Okay, Sheldon gave $93 million in the last election for president. Now, of course, in that election, Bush spent about $200. So combined, they had about $300 million. Now, let's fast forward to the last election. It's been going up rapidly. In 2012, it was over $2 billion that was spent between Obama and Romney. So you go from $300 million in 2000, where people were accusing these guys of over-the-top spending because it was so much higher than they'd ever had before, accused Bush of buying the election. Now we go from $300 million in 2000 to $2 billion, a little over $2 billion in 2012. Amazing, amazing how it is going up like, what is that, a factor of 7 in just 12 years, in just a few election cycles. And, of course, where did he put that money? Back in 2012, Adelson was backing Gingrich. So he doesn't have a very good track record, but he does like to back people who are neocons, people who are pushing for war, especially people who are pushing for war with the Arabs, because he is a Zionist. He's part of the Republican Jewish coalition. And so, as they pointed out in the New York Times, seeking political revival, Christie joins 2016 contenders at a GOP forum. That would be the Sheldon primary. Now, what was on store there, they were pushing back against Rand Paul, essentially. Rand Paul was not there, but he was the punching bag for everybody. He was a piñata that everybody was kicking back against because they were all trying to show how strong and militaristic they were going to be. This was Chris Christie, Jeb Bush, John Kasich, Scott Walker, Republican governors, some still in office, most still in office. As Walker said, if they don't believe we're strong, they'll take action. Jeb Bush said, we can't have American passivity. And it says, in a sign of mounting anxiety about the presidential aspirations of Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, who has complained that American foreign policy is too overreaching, Jeb Bush pointedly warned against isolationism, seen as a rebuttal to Mr. Paul. Now, the interesting thing is, I think, the reaction, what John Kasich did. Of course, he's the governor of Ohio. He delivered a luncheon speech on Saturday to a crowd of several hundred. He repeatedly referred to Sheldon as if the billionaire were the only other person in the room. See, he's not auditioning for president. He's auditioning for puppet. He wants to be his puppet. But the most interesting thing, the funniest thing about it was, as Christie is trying to pull himself back from Bridgegate, what he does is he's bragging about how, he's trying to make common cause with the Jewish people there. And so he talks about how, Israel is about the size of New Jersey, and maybe he should have said maybe it's about the same number of characters in the name. Only if you're in Common Core does it have the same number of characters. But, he's bragging about how they're kind of common. But he touched off disapproving whispers, according to the New York Times, from the crowd when he described flying over occupied territories where Palestinians live. Oops, we're not supposed to use that term when you're addressing a Zionist organization. A prominent Jewish leader, Morton Klein, said he tried to correct Mr. Christie as he left the stage, urging him to use different language, like, quote, disputed territory. Mr. Christie scowled, he said, and did not say whether he would do so in the future. I was shocked, said Mr. Klein, national president of the Zionist Organization of America, but that's okay. Chris Christie saw the light when he met in person with Sheldon. A few hours later, during a one-on-one meeting with Mr. Adelson, Mr. Christie apologized for the phrase. See, when America attacks and occupies a country, or Israel attacks and occupies a people, we do it as liberators. We're not occupiers. Say we're the good guys. But what does this get Mr. Adelson? When he spends $93 million on an election, what does this get him? Well, he actually gets a pretty good return on investment. Take a look at this story from the Huffington Post. Just last week, bills banning online gambling were introduced in Congress. Pull this up, guys, this Huffington Post article. Look whose picture's there. It's Miss Lindsey Graham. Miss Lindsey Graham is the guy who is carrying his water. Of course, they're on the same page as far as starting wars, too, aren't they? But lawmakers from both parties introduced legislation in the House and Senate on Wednesday to ban online gambling. Okay, and this is something that is dear to the heart of Sheldon Adelson. As a matter of fact, he's already gone to war with the American Gaming Association. So the dispute says, according to the New York Times and another article, seeking to ban online betting, GOP donors test the influence. It says the dispute has already largely sidelined the industry's powerful trade group, the American Gaming Association, after Mr. Adelson threatened to withdraw from the organization if it continued to back expanded online gambling, according to several industry executives. So the gambling industry is afraid of Mr. Adelson, and he seems to be able to get people like Lindsey Graham and Chris Christie to kiss his, let's put it politely, ring, okay? Kissing the ring of this guy. Whatever he wants, okay? They're for sale. You're for sale. Your country is for sale. From the people like Lindsey Graham, Chris Christie, Jeb Bush, John Kasich, Scott Walker. Those are people you need to watch out for because they're up for sale. They're basically prostitutes whoring themselves out to the highest bidder, and it makes a lot of sense for Mr. Adelson to spend $93 million on a presidential election. That's chump change compared to the amount of money he can make if he can get rid of his competitors. This is why corporations always work with government. See, it isn't that government is necessarily the bad guy unless they're not going to protect you from the corporations. They're being controlled by the corporations. That's what people on the left and the right don't understand. They always want to demonize the government or demonize the corporations or say that their guy can do no wrong. The thing is, they're both merged at the hip. You can't tell where the large corporations stop and where big government ends. It's a symbiotic relationship. Let's take another call. Anthony in Pennsylvania, you wanted to talk about the difference between 1984 and Brave New World that I was talking about earlier. You have a comment?
Yeah, David. Great show. It's Anthony Antonello from Pennsylvania. And as soon as I heard you say that, I had to pick up the phone and give you a call because the way I see it, and it's becoming so obvious to so many of us when we see those videos. And like the one from New Mexico, the actual murder, I mean, it happens on a regular basis. And when you see Kelly Thomas, what was it, 2 out of the 5 or 6 police officers were actually charged, and they were even acquitted. Yeah. So, you know, this is a systemic problem. The new thing I did notice in that video, did you notice the camera angle that they released? it reminds me of, and I'm not a video game player, but it reminds me of one of those first-person shooter.
That's right. That's right.
Right. So it's more of this acclimation, getting people, accustomed to it. This is the first generation of video gamers that are now soldiers. But the way I see Brave New World in 1984, I believe that they are doubling down with both. I believe they would rather a Brave New World. They would rather people dumb down. That's why they have the GMOs, the fluoride. They're hitting us up with Common Core and dumbing down the entire society, mainstream media propaganda. So they would rather that. But there are still people like us that are constantly waging this, war of information, trying to wake people up. And that's where their plan B, or, to make sure that everything goes the way they want, that's their 1984. That's their technocracy and them having complete control over everything we do. So you put those two together, and, this really is their New World Order, and it is playing out right in front of us in real time. When you look at pictures of people getting shot in the head by the Gestapo, okay, what is the difference? And people are so shocked. Oh, my God, how can that happen? Well, it's happening right now. We're seeing videos of it, the quote-unquote, the state murdering people.
That's right.
It's happening, right?
They want to believe that it isn't going to happen to them. In the same way that people who were rounded up by the Gestapo wanted to believe that they weren't headed to an execution, that they were just headed to a prison camp, or that something good was going to happen to them if they were just nice and harmless. We're going to be right back. Thank you, Anthony. We're going to take some other callers right after the break.
Today is the last day to get free shipping on every order over $150 from Emergency Essentials. And that's not all. We have the guaranteed lowest prices anywhere, like our new Farmer's Market vegetable combo that's on sale for 50% off. That's 6 cans of freeze-dried veggies for only $79.99. Or get Mountain House pork chops for 22% off. Call Emergency Essentials at 800-999-1863 or click BePrepared.com. The choice is clear. Be unprepared or BePrepared.com.
Clean water at home, clean water at the office, clean water on the go. The Berkey Guy has a Berkey water filtration model for anywhere you are, and one that fits any budget. Thousands of satisfied customers can't be wrong. For free shipping within the U.S., go to GoBerkey.com or call 877-886-3653. That's 877-886-3653. Helping thousands prepare since 2005, GoBerkey.com.
In the last 50 years, iodine has been phased out of our staple foods and replaced with the halogen bromine, a practice now banned in nations around the world. Guess what else is in the halogen family? Fluoride. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Jones here. In 1924, the federal government did the right thing and encouraged salt producers to add iodine. It's the good halogen on the periodic table, and the results are on record. Reports documented a 15-point IQ increase in areas that had previously been deficient in iodine. Bottom line, iodine is important. Unbound, clean, in a glycerin base. Nascent iodine was the answer for myself and my family. You will find Survival Shield Nascent Iodine exclusively at InfoWarsLife.com. InfoWars Life Survival Shield Nascent Iodine isn't just for emergencies. I take it every day. That's InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139.
We all know that Berkey Water Purification Systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 6 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey water filtration systems. The Berkey Light systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light system today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $231, and the Berkey Guy will ship your order free of charge. With the purchase of a Berkey Light, the Berkey Guy is also offering a set of fluoride and arsenic filters for only $39.99. That's over 30% off the retail price. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at GoBerkey.com. That's GoBerkey.com today.
Big business has discovered the preparedness market, and that makes it difficult to know where to go and who to trust. MyPatriotSupply.com is owned and operated by patriots just like you. Has the best prices on storable food, non-GMO seeds, water filtration devices, home canning equipment, survival and self-reliance books, and more. MyPatriotSupply.com has old-fashioned values and the absolute best customer service in the industry. Look for the deal of the day. Unique, affordable survival supplies that fit anyone's budget. Get same-day shipping on all orders and free shipping on orders over $49. Call 866-229-0927, 866-229-0927, or visit MyPatriotSupply.com for emergency preparedness, self-reliance, and food independence. Shop with a name you know and a name you can trust. Before it's time to survive, it's time to prepare. MyPatriotSupply.com.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host today, and we're taking calls. Most of the calls have been about the shooting that happened in Albuquerque. Of course, there was a demonstration yesterday, went on for 10 hours. Reports were that there were at least 500 people there. Once it dwindled down to 100, things got violent. And we've talked to a couple of people who were there in New Mexico, and we've been asking callers for solutions. What do you think we can do to get control of this militarized, unaccountable police that we see at every level? And, of course, we saw this also with the riots in Arizona, the Wildcat game that was lost. We see this cop just walking out of nowhere, clocking a young girl for no reason. She's not doing anything at all. What do we do to get control of the people that we've given this kind of, essentially a monopoly of force? Because if you oppose them, they will kill you. It underscores the reason why we cannot afford to give up our guns. We cannot give them a true monopoly of force. Can you imagine how much worse, how much more rapidly this would deteriorate if they knew that nobody even had any guns? At some point, that has to be a deterrent. It's just like the mutual assured destruction of the U.S. and Russia having nuclear weapons. That's the idea of the population having firearms. It's there to serve as a deterrent against a tyrannical government. And of course, the other part of the plan was that we were never supposed to have a standing military like we've had since the end of World War II. They always knew that the means of defense against tyranny abroad would become, the means of defense against enemies abroad would become the means of tyranny at home. It's just human nature. The founders understood that. They warned us about that. They tried to set up controls and checks and balances to stop that, but we've ignored their advice. We've ignored the checks and balances, and now we have a problem on our hand. And so we've been taking callers, and Josh in Washington, you've been holding for quite some time. Tell us what you wanted to say about this.
Hi, David. I just want to say you're doing a great job with the Daily Show. I just have a few topics I'd like to touch on.
Sure, go ahead. Thank you.
As far as your idea there to make the officers and the departments foot the bill for their tyranny, I think that's a great idea. And I think some people might argue that that still comes out of the government coffers, but at least that would give us a paper trail, leads back to the offending departments and whatnot, and really that money is going to talk louder than any, abusive action that they do. If they're spending too much money, that'll stop them, I think.
Yes, I think we have to make them accountable in some way, at the very least financially accountable. Make the police departments financially accountable. Cut their budget. Make Homeland Security give them all of their weapons for free. That's probably what they would do. I don't know. Any other comments you want to make?
Well, I also wanted to talk about Obamacare a little bit there.
Sure, go ahead.
I've talked to people on different forums and whatnot on this, and back in the day, it's just the Obama cult of personality was very strong. But even nowadays, on forums where people aren't very it's not about politics, but and you talk to people and they are getting the picture. This is the clinch pin, I think. And I wanted to know, do you think that the mandate's going to last after this administration ends, and if that would be regardless of what party gets in there next?
Well, I hope it will. Ted Cruz has said that he thinks that he can end it. I hope he can. We need to the government doesn't have any authority to force us to buy insurance, but we see the government doing things that it has no constitutional authority for all the time anyway. I mean, look at the war on drugs. That's where we really first saw the militarization of the police. That's where we really saw SWAT teams used for the first time, no-knock raids used for the first time. It was a war on our civil liberties from the get-go, and they had no authority for it. When they had alcohol prohibition, they had to pass a constitutional amendment because at the time, people acknowledged the authority of the Constitution. They knew that they had no authority to ban anything, so they passed a constitutional amendment to ban alcohol. Then when they decided they weren't going to ban alcohol, they passed another constitutional amendment. So we got 20-some-odd amendments. 2 of them are about giving the government permission to ban alcohol or a particular substance, whatever it is, and then another one to undo it. So where do they get off telling us that we can or cannot have anything in our life? They don't have the authority. The 9th and 10th Amendments make that clear, that that authority has not been given to them. They don't have, under the Commerce Clause or under the General Welfare Clause, they don't have the authority to extrapolate that into broad powers. The 10th Amendment says that if it's not specifically given to you, you don't have it. If it's not enumerated, you don't have it. That's the situation. So they ignore the law, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. There are a lot of Republicans who are in the pockets of the insurance companies. And make no doubt about it, when Obama spent $1.2 billion to get elected, he owed money to corporate donors. This is a payback. This is a redistribution of wealth from the American people to these corporations. And there are Republicans who are involved in that as well. We'll be right back.
We're on the march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
The globalist social engineers are not just targeting us with propaganda. They are manipulating our genetics. We are being targeted at every level by estrogen mimickers that lower our testosterone and other hormones and natural compounds that the body needs. After consulting top doctors, nutritionists, pharmacists, and others, we have developed what I believe is the ultimate non-GMO organic super male vitality formula sourced from powerful organic herbs and then concentrated for maximum potency. Super Male Vitality was developed to activate your body's own natural processes instead of using synthetic chemicals. Super Male Vitality by InfoWars Life is so powerful that I only take half the recommended dose. For a limited time, we are offering 15% off Super Male Vitality at InfoWarsLife.com to introduce you to this powerful supplement. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today to secure your Super Male Vitality. InfoWarsLife.com. Alex Jones here to tell you about how you can help spread liberty worldwide while also enjoying what I have found to be the best tasting 100% organic coffee on the planet. For more than a decade, my favorite coffee has come from the high mountains of southern Mexico, where the Chiapas farmers grow their unique shade-grown Arabica beans. We have now managed to secure these sought-after beans in a highly customized blend. Discover and try a bag of the Patriot Blend 100% organic coffee at InfoWarsLife.com. This coffee gives you a long, smooth pick-me-up for hours without the headaches and heartburn that so many other coffees give me personally. Hands down, this is my favorite coffee, and it's taken us years to secure connections directly to the Chiapas Mexican farmers. Drop by the site today, order a bag or two, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Available in original or with our Immune Support Infusion Blend. You will be supporting a free press, all the while enjoying a truly great-tasting cup of my favorite coffee. Available at InfoWarsLife.com. Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. We've got the Life Straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand-cranked shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com.
Crashing through the lies and disinformation, it's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. We just had Paul Joseph Watson's article about cops inspecting homes without notice for illegal tenants. That's been picked up by Drudge. It's on the Drudge Report. Of course, this is a story we've been talking about where authorities in Long Island have launched a crackdown on homeowners who rent their house out to illegal tenants under a zero-tolerance program that will see police conduct home inspections without notice, without warrants. Guess what, guys? If you don't have property rights, you are the property. You are a slave if you don't have property rights, okay? Get that, make that clear to people. And look at the way they spin this. This is why Paul Joseph Watson picked up a quote from the News 12 interview with Mayor Peter Cavallaro. He said, permitting property owners to call the shots on rentals in their home would, quote, victimize the community as a whole. See, it's not about you. We got to protect the community. Those bad people with private property, you know, we can't let them make decisions about what they're going to do with their property. We need to just SWAT team them if we even suspect that. We don't need any warrants. We're going to have zero tolerance. We've heard that before. We've heard zero tolerance. We've heard mandatory minimums. This is the same old stuff, the same tactics that have been tried with the war of drugs. At the same time, our government is cracking down on the war of drugs. They're also running the drug trade. Look at what happened in Afghanistan. They were down to 10% of the world's poppy supply used for things like heroin. After we get in, it goes to 90%. Look at what was happening under Reagan. At the same time, he's talking about a zero-tolerance program and mandatory minimums. They're running drugs with the Contras to fund a secret war. That's the way this thing rolls. Just like this guy from California, the state legislator, who's the biggest gun grabber, writing all these gun regulations. At the same time, he's running guns and gets caught by the FBI. It's just amazing, the hypocrisy. I want to depart from what we've been talking about here for just a moment, about the police state, about what's going on in Albuquerque. There were several articles today on InfoWars about environmentalism, and we've got James Lovelock saying that environmentalism has become a religion. This is a guy from England. He's the scientist who came up with the Gaia hypothesis. Now, of course, Gaia is Greek for the earth. It's the hypothesis that the earth is a self-regulating single organism. Say that the earth is this living organism and humans are a virus. And as I pointed out yesterday, when I was in London with my sons and they were young, we went to the Children's Museum. In the play area, they were running this virulent propaganda film. I recorded it. I've got to find it in my archive somewhere. It's kind of like Busman's Holiday. I don't ever have time to go edit my own films or the inclination to do so after I've been doing it here. But this was an amazing piece of propaganda portraying the human race as a destructive virus that needed to either be kept to a minimum, you know, like 90% reduction in population, or eliminated altogether for the good of the earth. Now, the guy who came up with that hypothesis said that he was also too certain about the rate of global warming. He says, it's just as silly to be a climate denier as it is to be a believer. And he said that we should get our power from fracking and nuclear power. Well, maybe actually he does want to get rid of humans. I don't think I would look at those as a way to go. It's interesting that they use the term denier because it is a religion. It's the same as calling somebody an infidel. And he says that. He says it's become a religion and religions don't worry too much about facts. And look at this report from Paul Joseph Watson today on InfoWars. Liberal fascist calls for global warming skeptics to be arrested. That's right. Burn those infidels. Okay, this is as he points out, Paul Joseph Watson says, a demented rant by Gawker's Adam Weinstein calls for thought criminals who question man-made global warming to be arrested and thrown in prison. Actually, we have some very compelling scientific data and measurements to back it up, to deny that there's global warming. But anyway, this is what the demented Gawker rant said. He said, we have laws on the books to punish anyone whose lies contribute to people's deaths. It's time to punish these climate change liars. Those denialists should face jail. They should face fines. They should face lawsuits from classes of people whose lives and livelihoods are most threatened by the denialist tactics. This is liberal intolerance, liberal hate. Okay, this is the same sort of thing that we saw last week as arguments were being made before Hobby Lobby. We saw people like Jon Stewart coming out and ridiculing Hobby Lobby as Jesus Christ Superstore and saying, who are they to decide? You know, not only are they, it appears that anybody, no matter how stupid, can claim a religious exemption. And it's like, yeah, that's right. You don't get to decide, Mr. Stewart, whether somebody has a religious belief or what that religious belief is. That's what the First Amendment is about, is to protect you as well as other people. Voltaire understood that when he said, I may not agree with you, but I'll defend to the death your right to say what it is you want to say. That's what First Amendment and religious freedoms are about. You don't get to decide. The intolerant liberals don't get to decide. The intolerant conservatives don't get to decide. You have freedom, and only have freedom if you support that choice for other people. But going back to this whole thing about it being a religion and deniers being infidels, we can see this in the movie that just came out this last week, in Noah. Another article from InfoWars, up from Michael Snyder. In Noah, the fallen angels are the good guys. He points out in Noah, the fallen angels are good guys that were kicked out of heaven because of their compassion for humanity. They help Noah build the ark, and they ascend to heaven when they die, helping to defend the ark against a band of marauding evil humans. Darren Aronofsky, the director, stated that he attempted to make the least biblical film ever made. Well, I think he accomplished that, but did he really make anything that anybody wants to see? There's a director, Brian Godawa, and he got a release of the script before it came out, and he was telling everybody that this really is not at all about the biblical story of Noah. It's about that being hijacked for a different religion, for an environmentalist religion. And that's exactly what it is. He saw it this last week, and he said, yeah, you know, I had a lot of people criticizing me because it was a preliminary script, and they said, oh, it's going to be different. But he said, yeah, actually, I was right when I saw it. And by the way, let me tell you, Brian Godawa is a very good screenwriter. If you haven't seen his film that he wrote the screenplay for, To End All Wars, that's an excellent film. He's said over and over again that he believes that all really good stories are stories about redemption, that they echo, essentially, the redemptive story of Christ. And he really does portray that in To End All Wars. It's a story that takes place in World War II. And he doesn't beat people over the head. He doesn't set it in a Roman toga and sandals venue. He's got it in a modern context, but the message comes across very clearly. I think everybody would enjoy that, whether you're a Christian or not. But his take on the Noah movie, he says, is simply ugly, anti-human exceptionalism. It's enviro-agitprop. In other words, it's environmental propaganda to agitate people. And he says that, like The Last Temptation of Christ, all the controversy overshadowed the fact that it is just plain terrible storytelling. He said, at least with Avatar, with its naked pagan earth worship, it has a ring of more authenticity than just trying to subvert someone else's sacred narrative with silly rock people and bad guys who cling to their guns and eat meat, because they really do demonize the people who eat meat. Even though we see that I've been told, I haven't seen the movie, I've been told that Noah is anti-human. He wants to get rid of the humans, even to the extent of wanting to kill his granddaughters on the ark because he does not want humans to continue. So a very, very much the agenda that we see with Gaia and these religions, radical earth-firsters who want to destroy the human race, as we see with things like the Georgia Guidestones, where they want to eviscerate the human population. And you know what? Maybe they'll get their wish. We've got an outbreak of Ebola that's jumping across the borders. It kills 90% of the people. And as the eugenicist here in Austin said, as Alex has pointed out many times, he was saying that that's exactly what we need. We need an airborne Ebola virus to rapidly get rid of 90% of the Earth's population. AIDS takes far too long. We want something like the Ebola virus. And so maybe they're going to get their wish. Who knows? It's something to look out for. Let's go back to your calls. We've got Barry in Ohio. You wanted to say something about Brave New World, I believe.
Yeah, actually I did. It was kind of weird. As I was here on hold, I had a strange confluence of the two topics that you've got going on here.
Okay.
When you talk about dystopic novels, the most appropriate one is going to be Fahrenheit 451. Okay, in Fahrenheit 451, there are no doctors, there are no nurses, there are technicians. The machines do the work. There's no society. Everyone spends their money on video walls. Right? And everyone that can only talk about what they have on the video walls, and they call them the family. Yeah. You know, that my family is on the video wall, right?
That's right.
And everyone lives in fear of the fire dog, which is, of course, a robotic spider.
Yeah.
With lethal injection, and they can track people by their DNA set.
Man.
Now, here's the important part. The hero in the story escapes. That's kind of important because they can get away with this. Now, there is a man that is killed for no reason. They sent the dog out to kill a man, and the dog kills the man. It's not about the hero escaping. It's not about the man who dies. It's about all of the people that stand in line. You know, the people that keep their head down, the people that just want to get by, the people that just, get on with society, that sort of thing, right?
Yes, yes.
When you look at the shooting out there in New Mexico, the gentleman, was doing nothing wrong. He lost his life. That's regrettable. The police are going to, do whatever they do. But think about how many thousands of people aren't going to be in that park.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. It is sad, isn't it, how we're living in this dystopian future. It's a confluence of all the worst things that we've seen in the movies and books. I mean, we also see the rise of robots, and we see elements of the Terminator being planned by DARPA. I mean, it's really frightening. And we don't know what the future holds, but as many people have said, we know who holds the future. And one of the key hopes is for the churches to not be part of the see something, say something, not fall into this misappropriation of Romans 9, but to stand up and take the moral high ground and lead from the front. That's the only thing that's going to stop this. That's the only thing where people are going to have the courage to stand up to this. If they know that there is something greater and higher than just being taken down, that's what needs to happen. That's what we need from the churches, and it remains to be seen if they're going to do that at all. Thank you. That was a very thoughtful call, Barry in Ohio. Let's go to Ian in Colorado. Ian?
Hello. How are you?
Doing fine. What you got?
Hey, I just want to touch base and say, with every issue you've talked about today, I know about. I'm on your side with it, but what the people need to know is we need boots on the ground. And what I mean by that is I need people to be delegates, and I need people to go out and caucus and be a delegate. Typically, when we say someone needs to go out and vote, it's a lost cause. People feel destitute, and for a good reason. But if somebody actually goes out and caucus and becomes a delegate, their voice will be heard. Delegates are known as super voters.
Yes.
You decide who gets put on the ballot, and you decide which agendas get pushed forward.
I think that's great. There's the states that have caucuses. I was very happy with the grassroots movement and the caucuses last time. Saw that coalescing around Ron Paul, but there was a lot of shenanigans going on in the caucuses as well. And it appears that the GOP has, behind the scenes, been making adjustments to that. What's your take on that? Do you think they have found a way to essentially shut down caucuses in the states that do have them?
They are working on it, believe it or not.
And that's why we need people to get involved now, right? We need people to get involved to stop that at this point.
I want people to know when I'm talking about voting, I'm talking about being a super voter. You're going to be part of the SEAL Team 6 or Delta Force voting machine. You're not going to be a regular voter. You're going to be a super voter. I need you. I need your help. Help me, help you, for God's sake. Just help me.
Very good point. That's really important for people who are in caucus states. Now is the time to get involved. The same Republican hierarchy leadership that's going out and courting Sheldon Adelson is also trying to shut down the caucus system. It's a much better system than the primaries. Why? Because it is so easy to rig ballot voting, one-on-one ballot voting. It's much better with the caucus situations. There are so many places where they can come in and corrupt the ballot system. They can do it with illegal voters. They can do it anytime you lose custody of the ballots. They can do it. They can take over the voting machines very easily. They can put viruses in these electronic voting machines. We need to roll this back. We need to make it simpler. We need to have paper ballots. We need to have a constant stream of monitoring and of control of these ballots. As Stalin said, it doesn't matter who casts the votes, it's who counts the votes. It's a very bad situation that we have in elections, but at the state levels, and especially at the states where there are caucuses, you can do something now. You need to get involved now. Stop them from shutting this down and get active in the next time. Thank you. It's a very good call. Let's go to Dean in Florida. You had something you wanted to say about the police?
Yes, David. How are you doing today?
Doing good. What's up?
Yeah. Well, I've seen the the pictures, and I've read the stories regarding the slaying of the homeless guy in the hills there in Albuquerque. And it just really made me, I was infuriated for the last day and a half. And finally, I'm starting to cool off a little bit. But really what I think is this. I think that the police in Albuquerque right now, I think the police department, they're trying to act like the victim, when they had the protesters marching through, and they had all those police, dressed up in their riot gear. And then they were, telling people, well, they couldn't lawfully assemble after a certain point, and they were trying to get the people to disperse and, use the tear gas and everything. They're trying to play the victim right now. They're not willing to admit that they're wrong. And these are evil people. Okay. The people that are doing this, knowingly doing this, police chief, whoever is involved, even if it's the mayor of Albuquerque, it's just evil. And I'll tell you, what really would have happened is had the protesters not dispersed, had they just stayed there, and the police would have called in whatever, maybe called in the military, who knows.
That's right.
There would have been deaths. I mean, if people stand up now, what's going to happen? I mean, I believe in standing up, and if I had been able to be in Albuquerque, I would have been at that protest. And I think maybe next time people ought to think about bringing some kind of a mask.
Well, and it's not just Albuquerque; it's many places. We saw the officer knocking down that young lady in Arizona. And it's something that's being pushed at the state level. It's something that's being pushed by the federal government. We're going to be right back with more of your calls. Bill in Wisconsin, I want to get your take on Sheldon Adelson, so hang on. We'll be right back.
Uncover a simple privacy loophole that can stop the NSA spying thugs in their tracks at privacylockdown.com. The NSA has already shut down hundreds of sites, and the truth be told, they could shut down this operation at any time. See, the privacy loophole I'm about to show you allows you to make all your sensitive information disappear in the next 30 days or less. Go to privacylockdown.com now to take your life off the grid and see the loophole in the NSA and FBI spying machine before they close the loophole forever. Go to privacylockdown.com.
We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Ted Anderson, I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
It's been said, those who control the food control the people. Are you concerned about GMO foods making you sick and affecting your mind? Many people suffer from lack of energy, insomnia, loss of stamina, weight gain, and the inability to think clearly. Genetically modified crops, processed foods, and toxic chemicals can compromise your health and are silently destroying your digestive system, which accounts for 80% of your immune system. Take back control of your health with Pro EM1 Probiotic from Terraganics. Pro EM1 Probiotic helps protect your body against irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, Crohn's disease, celiac disease, diabetes, the common cold, and much more. And including a powerful probiotic like Pro EM1 is part of your daily routine, puts you back in control and prevents you from becoming a mindless zombie manipulated by the pharmaceutical and GMO agendas. Call Terraganics at 866-369-3678 or visit Terraganics.com. TERAGANIX.com.
There's no reason to be sick this season with Supernatural Silver's incredible technology. You can give your immune system the support it needs to help fight off colds, flus, and other nasty pathogens that can ruin the holidays for you and those you love. Used internally or topically, Supernatural Silver is a great defense against sore throats, runny noses, sinus or ear infections, and a whole host of other illnesses. Supernatural Silver is extremely safe and a great way to protect yourself and the ones you love. No one knows what the future may bring, so be smart and plan ahead. Have Supernatural Silver in your emergency preparedness arsenal and give someone a gift that's meaningful, a gift that can change lives. Give the gift of good health this year. Go to supernaturalsilver.com and use the promo code SILVER2013 for 20% off your entire order. That's supernaturalsilver.com, and like us on Facebook.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and we're taking callers. I was talking earlier about Sheldon Adelson. He's the casino billionaire in Las Vegas. You may remember in 2012, he had his own caucus, as many news outlets reported it. And, of course, that was going to be for Jews only, but many people crashed that caucus. There was a lot of corruption around Vegas in 2012 and the presidential caucuses there. Now, this last weekend, he had the Sheldon primary for 2016, where he has some of the frontrunners, Chris Christie, Jeb Bush, come to him and kiss his ring, basically suck up to him. And it remains to be seen what's going to happen with that. Of course, now Lindsey Graham is also carrying water for him, introduced a bill to stop online gambling. See, even though Sheldon Adelson gives $93 million in the last presidential election, he gets a very good return on his investment. Can you imagine how much it's worth it for him if somebody like Lindsey Graham can get online gambling shut down? Mike Rogers is leaving the House. We need to get rid of Lindsey Graham. Guys, in South Carolina, he's coming up for election this next time. We've got a good Tea Party candidate there. Let's get Lindsey Graham out. I don't know if he's going to go to talk radio or maybe, I don't know, I could kind of see Lindsey Graham more as a Broadway performer type. You know, maybe we could put him in a lounge lizard suit or something, but somehow we got to get him out of Congress. This is a very dangerous, repulsive, corrupt individual. He needs to be taken out of office. People in South Carolina, please do your job. We got Bill in Wisconsin who wants to say something about Sheldon Adelson's primary. Go ahead.
Yeah, David, thank you very much for bringing up Sheldon Adelstein and all of his shenanigans on behalf of the Zionist movement. We're never going to have peace in the world until we, get to the root of some of these problems. And the big money that somebody like Adelstein wields and promotes certain candidates. I think not only do we need to get rid of Lindsey Graham, okay, and more than likely he might get into ballet when he leaves office.
Exactly.
But I'll be glad to see Mike Rogers go.
Yes.
I am sick and tired of turning on talk shows on Sunday and seeing Mike Rogers, as you accurately pointed out, promoting wars and the neocon agenda and the surveillance state.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But it's very illuminating, in the true sense of the word, the 4 candidates that went to Las Vegas there to court the favor of Sheldon Adelstein.
Yes.
Chris Christie, Jeb Bush, John Kasich, and our own Scott Walker here from Wisconsin. Now, he's done a few things that are decent, but for the most part, the real gut issues like Common Core and, reducing the influence of the neocon agenda, he hasn't done anything.
That's right.
So
he's going to be a New World Order guy. And the thing that bothers me about this Sheldon primary is how out front and open they are about it. And that's what we see with Obama. We see the corruption there. We see the auditing of the Tea Party people with the IRS and the fact that they just keep doing it. They get away with it. They're not even embarrassed about it anymore. I mean, at least Nixon tried to cover it up. At least they impeached Nixon. At least they forced him out of office. Today, they just do whatever they want to. And that's what we're seeing here in Las Vegas. Well, that's it for today's show. Please join us again tomorrow. Alex Jones will be back at 11 Central, noon Eastern. Join us then.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.